Chapter 544. Wu Zhoushu's speech was like an old granny's foot-binding cloth, smelly and long, until all the disciples in the field were drowsy, and the 5 consecrators on the field were dozing off. Only then did he end. Wu Zhoushu said, "All right, my speech ends here. The rest of the time will be handed over to Headmaster Chun." Immediately, the drowsy disciples below the field were energized. The 5 consecrators on the field immediately raised their heads and clapped at the same time, making Zhang Xiaohua confused. Weren't these people all asleep just now? Why were they still listening? Chun Fengxiao listened and said loudly, "Thank you, Wu Dalong, for your brilliant speech, explaining the importance and necessity of this gambling fight in detail. As for me, I don't plan to say much, but on initiative, I would like to add 2 points." Instantly, the disciples below the field returned to their drowsy state. The consecrators on the field also returned to their dozing state. Zhang Xiaohua also looked down and started to comprehend the rabbit talisman in her Naiwen palace. Not knowing how long had passed, Chun Fengxiao said, "All right, I will stop here. I wish this gambling fight a perfect, smooth, high-quality, high-value ending." All right, everyone in the field returned to their lively and energetic state. Oh my, Zhang Xiaohua understood this time. These people were already used to it. Following that, Chun Fengxiao and Wu Zhoushu looked at each other, and their eyes shrunk. They took out a brocade pouch, walked to one of the 5 consecrators, and handed the brocade pouch to that person. That old consecrator also stood up solemnly and stretched out his hand to receive it. Then, Chun Fengxiao and Wu Zhoushu left the field and returned to the grass department and Dan department respectively. At this time, a disciple walked over from the side, holding a sealed box in his hand, and placed it on the table in front of the consecrator. The consecrator carefully placed the brocade pouch into the box, looked around, and laughed loudly. "The order of these 10 matches has been decided. Please place your bets." Bet? Zhang Xiaohua couldn't help but be stunned. At this time, Chun Fengxiao had already sat down beside Zhang Xiaohua. He said in a low voice, "The prize of the gambling fight is taken out by the 2 participants. Whoever wins will naturally get the prize of the other. However, the disciples outside the field won't get any benefits. Therefore, they have to open a bet for them to take out their elixirs and choose which side to support. If the side they support loses, they won't get their elixirs back. If they win, they can get the elixirs of those who lose." Zhang Xiaohua understood a little, but she immediately asked curiously, "Boss Jin, there are so many people here. Won't it be troublesome to place a bet? Moreover, if I bet that the grass division will win, I will only bet 1 elixir, and the others bet that the pill division will win. Everyone will also bet 1 elixir. After the winner is decided, how will the elixirs be divided?" Chun Fengxiao pointed at the many disciples who were running around with cloth bags, paper, and brushes, and said, "Look, these are the disciples who are preparing to record and accept the elixirs. They are all very familiar with this, so there's no need to go through too much trouble. According to what Brethren said, if you win, you will win all of the other people's elixirs. However, if you lose, your elixir will be divided equally among the others. As for how to divide equally, we have a set of methods that have been used for a long time, and everyone is very convinced." Zhang Xiaohua understood that the eyes of the crowd were as sharp as snow. If she was the only one who bet to win, she would definitely lose, and the other people's investment would definitely result in very little results. At this time, looking at the many people who were running down the field, she quickly reached the end of the list of disciples. Presumably, they had finished counting the bets. Zhang Xiaohua suddenly thought of something and asked softly, "But before the list of names for the battle is announced, we don't know who will be fighting who. How can we choose the contestant that we like?" Chun Fengxiao shrugged and said, "If it's not the grass division, then it's the pill division. There are only these 2 choices. It's up to the heavens." Zhang Xiaohua was speechless. It seemed that this was the only way. If they knew who would be fighting, they would know the level of their martial arts. How could anyone bet that they would definitely lose? Sure enough, after a disciple collected the detailed records of everyone's bets, he directly brought it to the field. Among the 5 consecrated elders, the leftmost one also picked up a small wooden box from the ground and solemnly kept the records. After closing the lid, He took out a lock from his chest and carefully locked it before placing it on the table. Zhang Xiaohua asked curiously, Headmaster Chun, are these 5 old consecrated elders not going to bet? Chun Fengxiao looked at the 5 solemn old consecrated elders on the stage and said with a smile, they are the judges of the battle. Naturally, they can't affect the fairness of the battle because of their likes and dislikes. So, they hee. Although they want to participate, they can't be allowed to. Of course, they will take a cut for every battle. Do you think they will work for free? Zhang Xiaohua also chuckled and didn't say anything. Who would like to work for free? When all the preparations were in place, the entire field was silent. Everyone looked at the consecrated elder in the middle. Qin Fengxiao said in a low voice, this consecrated elder's surname is Lei. He is the oldest among the 5 consecrated elders. His alchemy skills are also the best. So, our pill department and grass department unanimously elected him to be the main judge. Consecrator Lei took a sip of tea, cleared his throat, and solemnly opened the small box in front of him. He picked up a brocade pouch and took out a slip of paper. After looking at it, he read aloud, Dan Division's first disciple is Yao Ping. At this moment, a tall and sturdy person was picked out from the pill department's disciples. He walked into the field and walked a few steps as if he was demonstrating his power. He shook the muscles on his arms and then cast a provocative look in Zhang Xiaohua's direction. Unfortunately, Zhang Xiaohua didn't even look at him. This look was like casting pearls before swine. Zhang Xiaohua turned and asked Qin Fengxiao, leader, who is this simple-minded muscular man? Qin Fengxiao looked at the pill department's rising momentum and then looked at Yao Ping, who was baring his fangs and brandishing his claws. He smiled and said, this guy is the number 2 of the 10 great guardian deities. He has some skills. If you go against him, you have to be careful. Zhang Xiaohua nodded and frowned, leader. I suddenly thought of something. The pill department's 10 great guardian deities and our grass department's 6 great arhats, are they ranked based on martial arts or age? Of course it's based on martial arts. Qiu Wei Cheng did not wait for Qin Fengxiao to open his mouth and continued. This Yao Ping used to be the eldest of the 9 great guardian deities. However, Zhou Shuming came and fought with him for 300 moves before Zhou Shuming defeated him and took the title of Great Guardian Deity. Yao Ping had to settle for 2nd place, and the other 8 deities were all ranked behind. Haha, only that Cheng Shi, who was originally called Honest, is worthy of his name. He is the 10th. Qin Fengxiao chuckled. Our 6 great arhats are the same? Yes, most of them were poached from the other peaks of Tianmu Peak. They are all characters who are not willing to submit to others. How can they not compete? Little brother, now that you've come, you have the strength to fight for the title of Great Arhat. Look, about 1 zhang to your left, the short and shrewd one is our grass division's Great Arhat, Lu Fengming. When he heard about your arrival, he didn't sleep well last night, afraid that you would challenge him. When Zhang Xiaohua heard this, he released his spiritual awareness and saw that Lu Fengming was looking at the stage. From time to time, the corner of his eyes slanted in his direction, as if he was observing him. Zhang Xiaohua asked curiously, what's the point of arguing about the title of Great Arhat? Hee, little brother has just arrived at Tianmu Peak, so you don't know much. Although our Chuanxiang order is not in Jianghu, but the benefits of our disciples cannot be lacking. Although ordinary things like gold and silver have no use here, but pills and other things cannot be lacking. Otherwise, wouldn't everyone be too busy? Tianmu Peak's ordinary disciples have the same treatment as ordinary disciples, but the Dan department's King Kong and Grass department's Arhut naturally have different treatment. Moreover, according to the ranking, the treatment is very different. If Lu Fengming's title of Great Arhut is taken by you, his daily expenses and pills will be much less. Do you think he won't argue with you? Oh, so that's how it is. Zhang Xiaohua immediately understood and said to Qiu Wei Cheng, Senior Qiu, I have a message for you to pass to Lu Fengming. Is it a challenge? Junior brother Ren, if it is so, after this battle, let the head arrange it for you. With your martial arts, the title of Great Arhat will be yours. Yes, little brother. If you didn't tell me this morning, I was afraid that you would drive me away. Qin Feng said half-jokingly. It's not like that. Zhang Xiaohua shook his head and said, I want Senior Qiu to tell Lu Fengming that I will not fight with him for the title of Great Arhat. Even if it is any other Arhat, I will not fight for it. Eh, why is that? Qiu Wei Chang did not understand. Chun Feng smiled and said confidently, Is it because little brother disdains it? Zhang Xiaohua shook his head and said, It's not because I disdain it. The specific reason, I think you will know after a while. Qin Feng smiled and looked at Qiu Wei Chang. Both of them did not understand. At this time, Yao Ping of the Dan department had shown off enough. He stood on the empty ground and did not move. He got into a stance and quietly waited for his opponent to enter the arena. Lei Gongfeng saw that the atmosphere of the arena had been adjusted. He then stood up unhurriedly and opened the sealed box. He took out another brocade bag and took out a piece of paper. But when he saw the name written on it, he could not help but turn pale with fright. He immediately raised his head and looked at Qin Feng, who was below the arena. Qin Feng seemed to know about this situation. He met Lei Gongfeng's gaze and nodded slightly. After receiving Chun Feng's confirmation, Lei Gongfeng secretly sighed. He raised his head and looked at Wu Zhouxiu, who was looking at him with a strange gaze. Thus, he cleared his throat and said loudly, The first disciple of the grass department to fight is Lu Quan. What? Lu Quan? How can it be Lu Quan? Only the sixth of the 6 Arhats, Lu Quan, who is the weakest in the grass department. Not only Wu Zhouxiu and Yao Ping, even the disciples of the Dan department and grass department were holed up and shouting, Vote for me. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. -3. Chapter 545. When they heard that the first one to go on stage was not the popular figure of the grass division, Zhang Xiaohua, the whole place was in an uproar. The most important thing was that the disciples who had bet on the grass division were making a big fuss. Wasn't this cheating them? The second King Kong of the pill division, Lu Fengming, versus the 6th Arhat of the grass division, Lu Quan. How could the grass division possibly win? Wu Zhouxiu also had a strange expression on his face. He walked up to the stage and asked loudly, Leader Chen, shouldn't you give our pill division? Oh, no. Give all of our disciples an explanation? Chen Fengxiao was not afraid at all. He walked up to the stage and said with a smile, Dalong, your request is too simple. Even if you didn't say it, I would have come up to explain. Then, he raised his voice and said, I have discussed with Dalong yesterday to let our grass division's Ren Xiaoyao go on stage. However, this is a bet between our pill division and the grass division. When we arrange for Junior Brother Ren to go on stage, we have to consider the overall effect and not just Junior Brother Ren's own interests. Dalong, please rest assured that Junior Brother Ren will definitely go on stage. The conditions that I have promised you will definitely be fulfilled. But, Wu Zhouxiu said, but for a long time, but he couldn't say anything. Yes, the grass division had agreed to let Ren Xiaoyao go on stage. However, the order of the battle wasn't like his own wishful thinking. Any battle would be fine. He remembered that when he told Chen Fengxiao about it, he didn't specify which battle it was. Then, Chun Feng smiled and faced the disciples of the pill and grass divisions. He cupped his hands and said, Brothers, I'm sure everyone knows that the strength of the grass division is much weaker than that of the pill division. There's no need to hide this. Junior Brother Ren's participation will definitely allow the strength of the grass division to grow wings. The order of the battle has always been particular. I'm sure everyone knows this. Therefore, we've arranged for Junior Brother Ren to fight in the next round or the next round. Moreover, most importantly, our Junior Brother Ren will participate 3 times. Each time, the prize will be 50 taels of gold. This is the agreement between me and Wu Dalong, and it is also the agreement between Junior Brother Ren and the pill department. We will definitely fulfill the agreement. I believe, and you all must also believe, that with Junior Brother Ren's participation, the most important battle on Tianmu Peak will be even more attractive and interesting. Don't you think so? Nonsense. Since the leader of the grass division had spoken, how could the disciples of the grass division not raise their hands in agreement? Immediately, everyone cheered. Great. Exciting. We want exciting. When the disciples of the pill department saw that Wu Zhouxiu didn't say anything, and then thought about the more exciting battles in the future, they were all eager to give it a try. After everyone had quieted down, Chen Feng turned his head and asked Consecrator Lei, Old Consecrator Lei, May I ask if this arrangement violates the rules of the previous battle? Consecrator Lei nodded and said, Of course not. There are also 10 pieces of paper in the silk pouch. It's no different from before. Then, Chen Feng smiled and asked Wu Zhouxiu, What do you think, Dalong? What could Wu Zhouxiu say? Although he gritted his teeth in hatred, Chen Feng's words were reasonable and his actions were reasonable. He could only grit his teeth and swallow it. Fortunately, he didn't draw lots in the morning. Otherwise, he would have lost a lot of face. Wu Zhouxiu expressionlessly flicked his sleeves and retreated from the arena, sitting down casually. Chen Fengxiao also walked back to his original position. He waved his hand and a short and agile man on his right flashed out from the crowd with a whoosh and jumped straight onto the field. It was the 6th Arhat of the grass sect, Lu Quan. Chen Feng walked to Zhang Xiaohua's side and said, Little brother, I let you go up 3 times without your consent. You don't have any complaints in your heart, do you? Complaints? Zhang Xiaohua was stunned and thought, You still have the nerve to say that. The one that the pill department wants to challenge is me, not the 6 great guardian deities of the grass division. You guys interfered for no reason and let me earn less pills. Of course, I have complaints. However, Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, Of course not. Yesterday, little brother was the representative of the first master. How can I say irresponsible words now? Chen Feng was very happy when he heard this and said, Actually, Wu Dalong is just coveting little brother's golden leaves. He already gave little brother some pills just now. When little brother goes up later, as long as he wins the first round, even if he loses the next 2 rounds, it will still be a draw. I also thought of this, so I agreed to Wu Dalong's suggestion. This was also something that happened in the afternoon, so I didn't have time to inform little brother. Zhang Xiaohua waved his hand and said, It's fine. It's fine. It's just 3 rounds. If it really can't be done, I'll admit defeat. Actually, he had already calculated in his heart. 3 rounds meant that he could win 150 taels of gold. And it wasn't a small amount. It was equivalent to the salary of a manservant in the Huanxi Manor for many years. However, he immediately thought of a question. First Master, does this wager have to be taken out in advance for every battle? Chen Feng pointed at the 2 people who were already fighting and said, There's no need. Look at these 2 people. They're both going up first. After the battle, they'll hand over the wager. If there's any unfairness or if they refuse to hand over the wager, then we'll find the 5 judges to judge. Also, First Master, you've racked your brains to arrange the order of battle. Is there anything to say about whether the pill division or the grass division wins? Chen Feng smiled and nodded. That's right. Our Tian Mu Peaks pill division and grass division have always been competing. We've set the rules a long time ago. If the grass division and grass division each win 5 rounds, then no one will have to give the other any wager. But if the grass division wins 6 rounds and the pill division wins 4, then the pill division will have to give the grass division 20% of the wager. If the grass division wins 7 rounds and the pill division wins 3, then the pill division will have to give the grass division 40% of the wager. And so on and so forth until the grass division has to give the grass division all the wager. They've calculated it this way. This amount isn't small. Then, Zhang Xiaohua looked at Lu Quan, who was already on the verge of collapsing, and said, Looks like the grass division has lost quite a lot in the past. Chen Feng smiled and nodded. That's right. We don't have enough manpower and our martial arts are generally weaker than the pill divisions. Even if we use some strategies, we're always at a disadvantage. Then, he smiled and said, However, even though the wager in the past was not small, it's much smaller compared to this time. 10 battles, 50 taels of gold for each round. 20% is 100 taels of gold. Little brother, as long as you can win 2 rounds, the grass division will win back all the pills we've lost in the past. Zhang Xiaohua came to a sudden realization. He had originally thought that his little abacus was already quite good, but compared to Qin Fengxiao, it was really quite lacking. Of course, true knowledge comes from practice. If I haven't reached the height of the first master, how can I plan so many things and plan so meticulously? Zhang Xiaohua comforted himself. While they were talking, the battle in the arena had basically come to an end. The 2 of them were opponents who had fought for many years. The difference in their martial arts was obvious. Even though they were all from the same sect and couldn't casually use heavy blows, this short period of time was enough for Yao Ping to defeat Lu Quan. Yao Ping could be seen using the barbaric move, White Crane, drying its wings, and cleverly adding a sweeping kick to flip Lu Quan to the ground. Then, he kicked him out of the arena. However, Yao Ping, who had won, wasn't very satisfied. Not only did he have an unfair advantage in the battle with Lu Quan, the wager of 50 taels of gold would definitely be greatly reduced. Not to mention that he wouldn't be able to get the golden leaf in Zhang Xiaohua's hands. He wouldn't even be able to get the ruined Yuandan pill either. He really dirted his good luck this morning. Yao Ping looked unhappily at the expressionless faces outside the arena and waved his fist provocatively. Only then did he leave the arena helplessly. Perhaps he could only think about it next time. But would it still be 50 taels of gold next time? Seeing that the battle had ended, Consecrated Lei stood up and loudly announced, "The first battle, Yao Ping of the Pill Division wins." Then, he rushed into the arena and said, "The second battle is about to begin. Disciples, please place your bets." Just as he finished speaking, many disciples who were recording the battle entered the arena. This time, the disciples were very hesitant. They weren't as enthusiastic as before. Of course, there were still many rich disciples who chose to place their bets. After all the procedures were completed, Consecrated Lei took out the brocade pouch from the box. He took out a piece of paper and read, "The Grass Division's candidate for the second battle is Si Huinan." Then, from Chen Fengxiao's right-hand side, a slightly fat man jumped into the arena. Instantly, the Pill Division's Wu Zhoushu's face turned pale. He stared at Chen Fengxiao in a daze and pretended to gnash his teeth. Zhang Xiaohua was about to ask when Consecrated Lei took out another piece of paper and shouted, "The Pill Division's candidate for the second battle is Su Anong." Instantly, the Pill Division's disciples were in an uproar. The Grass Division's disciples were excited. Qiu Weiqing explained in a low voice, "Brother Ren, this Si Huinan is our Grass Division's 4th Arhat. Su Anong is the Pill Division's 9th Arhat. Ha ha ha, Si Huinan's martial arts is slightly higher than Su Andong's. In the previous 10 battles, Si Huinan won 7 of them. The first master's foresight is really amazing. He had already guessed that if Brother Ren were to fight, you would definitely not be able to fight in the second battle. We would definitely send the weakest Lu Quan to make up the numbers. They would then send Su Anong, who is just enough to win against Lu Quan. Not only would he win the battle, he would also save his energy. Thus, the first master did the opposite and sent Si Huinan, who just won against Su Anong. Zhang Xiaohua nodded and thought to himself, all of the pill department's arrangements were based on the fact that I was the first to appear. The grass department knew about the pill department's arrangements, so they feinted and let Lu Quan appear first, completely messing up the pill department's plans. This is what they call the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Sure enough, with Chen Fengxiao's confidence and Wu Zhoushu's unwillingness, the two of them fought for almost the time it took to eat a meal before the Grass Division won. Thank you. Calm. -3. Chapter 546. It wasn't until Si Huinan barely defeated Su Anong that Zhang Xiaohua had a better understanding of the martial arts of the Grass Division. Si Huinan was ranked 4th in the Grass Division. He was only slightly stronger than Su Anong, who was ranked 9th in the Dan Division. In other words, any one of the top 5 of the 10 great guardian deities could easily tie or win against an opponent from the Grass Division. It could be seen how weak the Grass Division was on Tianmu Peak. It could also be understood why Chen Fengxiao was pleasantly surprised when he saw that his skills were not bad. It could also be understood why he protected him in every possible way in the dining hall, and even offended Wu Dalong from the Dan Division. Soon, the third battle also began with Lei Gongfeng's loud voice. This battle was even more shocking. The Dan Division sent out the great guardian deity Zhou Shuming. As for the Grass Division, it was still not Zhang Xiaohua. Instead, it was Chen Fengxiao, the head Chen who surprised everyone. Hearing the names of the two people, Wu Dalong from the Dan Division almost foamed at the mouth. He cried out weakly, "Head Chen, how can you be so shameless? You actually want to compete with the people?" Chen Fengxiao had already expected that Wu Zhouxu would ask such a question. He shrugged helplessly and said innocently, "There's no other way. Dalong, you also know that a clever housewife can't cook without rice. There are only so many people in the grass division. If I don't rush to the front, how can I let my brothers rush to the front? At the crucial moment, I still have to let them see the power of an example. Furthermore, Junior Apprentice Brother Ren came all the way to our Tianmu Peak and must be exhausted. We can't possibly let him fight right from the start. That would make it seem as if I, as the first master, am not sympathetic towards my brother. Therefore, I can only fight this round." Wu Zhouxu was speechless. Although the grass tribe had always been suppressed by the Dan tribe, why was there still the existence of this bet? One of the key factors was that Chen Fengxiao was the #1 expert of the Tianmu Peak. Even the 10 great Vajras were not his opponent. Even Wu Zhouxu was slightly inferior to Chen Fengxiao. Therefore, the great Vajra Zhou Shuming, who was enough to shock all the Arhats of the grass tribe, was destined to die just like that. The outcome of this battle was already decided even without the need for a duel. The people on Tianmu Peak did not have much interest in watching the duel, but only Zhang Xiaohua released her divine sense to carefully observe the fists, kicks, and internal energy of these two famous figures on Tianmu Peak. By the time Chen Fengxiao defeated Zhou Shuming, she had already gained a deep understanding of their martial arts. That's all. Of course, this was understandable. After all, they were both people who had failed to become outer disciples. Even if they had practiced martial arts for many years, how could they enter the eyes of a Qi practitioner of the immortal path like Zhang Xiaohua? The next two duels were also boring. Under Chen Fengxiao's reasonable arrangements, the grass tribe's Wu Ziqing, who was ranked 5th, lost to the Dan tribe's Zhou Peng, who was ranked 3rd. The other duel was Great Arhat Lu Fengming, who defeated the Dan tribe's Wang Yinhai, who was ranked 4th. The difference in strength between these two duels was rather large. It did not take long for the victor to be decided. Consecrated Lei announced loudly, "This afternoon's duel will end here. We will continue tomorrow. Heads, please come over and seal the records." The disciples of the Dan tribe and the grass tribe all stood up. Chen Fengxiao, who had a proud face, and Wu Zhouxu, who had a dispirited face, walked forward. They each took out a small and exquisite lock from their bosoms and locked the box in front of consecrated Lei. The 5 consecrated elders of the Judgment Division took all the records and left first. After they left, the disciples dispersed. However, the expressions of the disciples of the two tribes were very similar to their heads. Some were full of interest and chatted cheerfully, as if they had just passed an extraordinary afternoon. On the other hand, the other side was listless. Even if they were whispering to each other, their voices were low. They had lost their drive. After the normal disciples had all left, Wu Zhouxu brought the 10 great arhats to Chen Fengxiao. He smiled bitterly and said, "Head Chen, you have played me so badly. In this afternoon, there were 5 duels, and you actually lost to Junior Brother Ren in one. I don't even know what to say to you." Chen Fengxiao also brought Xiuwei Cheng, Zhang Xiaohua, and the 6 great arhats to welcome him. He cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for letting me win. Thank you for letting me win. Wu Dalong, has your Dan tribe not won enough against our grass tribe? It wasn't easy for us to vent our anger, and you're so unhappy?" Wu Zhouxu shook his head and said, "If my Dan tribe's martial arts were not as good as your grass tribe's, then so be it. But it just so happened that your grass tribe took advantage of us." Without waiting for Wu Zhouxu to finish, Chen Fengxiao waved his hand and said, "Dalong, you're wrong. The best strategy is the best strategy. As long as the strategy is right, a weak army can also defeat a strong general." "Forget it. I haven't seen you say this before. You only said it when Junior Brother Ren came. However, the stakes of these 10 duels are really too big. You've really gotten it. To Dalong, it's just a drop in the ocean, isn't it? Hee, it's not even the end yet. Head Chen, are you so confident? There are still 5 duels tomorrow. My Dan tribe still has 5 brothers who have not fought yet. The outcome is still unknown." Wu Zhouxu retorted without holding back. Chen Fengxiao waved his hand indifferently. "The name list has already been given to consecrated Lei. Neither you nor I can change it. Let's wait for tomorrow's duel." "Well said. Let's go. Junior brothers, we may be opponents on the duel, but we're still brothers off the duel. Let's go and have a few drinks? Sure, that's exactly what I was thinking. Junior brother Ren has just arrived and hasn't met all of you senior brothers yet. This is a good opportunity. Drink? Zhang Xiaohua's head hurt when she heard this. What was so good about that? It was unbearably spicy and smelled bad. She really wasn't interested. Zhang Xiaohua tugged on Chun Fengxiao's sleeve and bowed to the others. Senior brothers, it's my first time here, so I should toast to all of you. However, I'm still young and haven't drunk yet. I really don't like it. Moreover, the senior brothers of the Dan tribe must also know that the Great Master and Dalong have arranged 3 duels for me tomorrow. Each duel has a prize of 50 taels of gold. Do you think I won't feel burdened? Therefore, I won't accompany you. I'll go back early to rest and recover my energy. I'll seek advice from my senior brothers tomorrow. Moreover, I'll be living on Tianmu Peak in the future. We'll be together every day, and there'll be plenty of opportunities to drink. When I grow up, I'll properly toast all of you senior brothers. How about that? Hearing this, Qin Fengxiao slapped his forehead and looked as if he had suddenly realized something. He explained to Wu Zhouxiu, Dalong, we were in a hurry yesterday and didn't make it clear. Junior brother Ran is a medicine boy selected by Rejuvenation Valley. Don't look at his adult figure. He's still young. If he doesn't drink, then there's no need to force him. Zhang Xiaohua's reason was sufficient. Qin Fengxiao also defended her from the side. The people of the Dan tribe naturally couldn't force her. Thus, they let Xiuweicheng send Zhang Xiaohua back. The others want to have fun. Zhang Xiaohua returned to the small courtyard and didn't waste any time. She threw her bundle on the bed and took out a straw cattail hassock. She sat cross-legged and took out the medicinal pills that she had obtained from the Dan tribe in the afternoon. She carefully examined them. When she opened the corks of the 4 bottles of medicinal pills, a strong medicinal fragrance assailed her nostrils. With one sniff, she knew that they were top-notch medicinal pills. Unfortunately, when this smell landed in Zhang Xiaohua's nose, she had already labeled these medicinal pills as inferior. Zhang Xiaohua had refined the blood-replenishing pill before. She had only smelled it slightly before putting it down. Zhang Xiaohua had never heard of the blood coagulation pill and the small bone strengthening pill. But after smelling the medicinal fragrance, she roughly knew what medicinal herbs were used to refine them. However, they were also ordinary medicinal pills, so she put them down. Only the small bone strengthening pill. Because it was a replica of the bone strengthening pill, Zhang Xiaohua took a special look at it. However, just from looking at this medicinal pill, it didn't seem to be much different from the small bone strengthening pill. They were both medicinal pills used to treat bone injuries. As for the useless Yuandan pill, Zhang Xiaohua didn't even have the interest to open the bottle. She still had a bottle of the real Yuandan pill in her purse. How could she look at this useless medicinal pill? Moreover, this medicinal pill was useless. Even if she wanted to refine it, it would take a lot of effort. Not to mention that she didn't have the prescription of the Yuandan pill. After checking today's harvest, Zhang Xiaohua took out the purse. The first thing she needed to do was to put all the valuable golden leaves in the bag into the space. Of course, this was Nie Qinyu's kind intention. She couldn't ignore it. Then, she put the 5 bottles of medicinal pills together with the clothes and medicinal pills sent by Nie Qinyu in the bag again. Anyway, there were medicinal pills worth 50 taels of gold. Presumably, the golden leaves didn't need to show up in the future. After tidying up the golden leaves, Zhang Xiaohua took out the pill formula that he had long forgotten and left in the corner of his coin pouch. The prescription that Chu Zhigao gave to Zhang Xiaohua was very thin. It recorded a few prescriptions. The one at the very front was the prescription for the bone-strengthening pill. Inside, it recorded the few main ingredients and supplementary ingredients needed for the bone-strengthening pill, as well as the detailed steps to refine it. However, the name of the medicinal herbs was the name of an ancient medicinal herb. The steps to refine it were also close to the method of refining immortal pills. It must have been learned from the jade slips by the ancestors of the Dragon Mountain. Looking at the familiar refining method, Zhang Xiaohua understood that no matter what, the lineage of the Dragon Mountain would not be able to refine the real bone-strengthening pill. It was no wonder that Chu Zhigao couldn't figure out the contents of the prescription and had to give it to her as a favor. In the prescription, The effects of the bone-strengthening pill were described to be a little exaggerated. However, thinking about the medicinal paste that Chu Zhigao improved based on the prescription and the fact that the fragrant religion actually refined the imitation, small bone-strengthening pill based on the prescription, she knew that the prescription wasn't false. If the real bone-strengthening pill could be refined, it might not be any worse than the Yuandan pill. However, Zhang Xiaohua didn't know if she could find the medicinal herbs needed to refine the bone-strengthening pill on Tianmu Peak. She could only memorize the prescription first and think about it when she found the right medicinal herbs in the future. Putting away the prescription, Zhang Xiaohua closed her eyes and began to cultivate. When the sky had turned dark and the moon had risen, Zhang Xiaohua's mind suddenly moved. She released her divine sense. Sure enough, outside the bamboo forest, she saw two people whispering about something. Please give me a monthly vote, a recommendation vote. -3. Chapter 547. Under the faint starlight, Zhang Xiaohua could see clearly that it was Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxiu. The two were talking about something, and occasionally Wu Zhouxiu would gesticulate, as if he was objecting to something. Zhang Xiaohua was very curious. These two were not talking in their own territory. Why did they run to the side of the bamboo forest? If it was a man and a woman, she could understand, but these two men? Zhang Xiaohua felt a chill run down her spine. Not long after, the two seemed to have reached some agreement. Wu Zhouxiu cupped his hands and turned to leave. Chen Fengxiao looked at Wu Zhouxiu's back and did not move. Only when Wu Zhouxiu was far away did he turn and walk towards Zhang Xiaohua's small courtyard. Under the moonlight, Zhang Xiaohua could clearly see the slight smile on Chen Fengxiao's face. Retracting her divine sense, not long after, she heard the sound of Chen Fengxiao knocking on the door. Zhang Xiaohua went forward and pretended to be surprised. Smiling, she said, "Leader Chen, aren't you drinking with them? Why did you leave so early?" Chen Fengxiao waved his hand and said, "That group of brats, when they start drinking, they don't know where to start. How can they leave so early? I was just thinking about little brother's fight tomorrow, so I specially came to take a look." "Leader, thank you for your concern. It's nothing much. After watching the brothers fight today, I have more or less confidence." Chen Fengxiao's eyes lit up. "You're too kind. Little brother is now carrying the heavy responsibility of our grass division. If I don't show more concern, what will I do?" "That's right. After hearing little brother say that you have more confidence, how confident are you in tomorrow's fight?" Zhang Xiaohua didn't even need to think before he asked, "Shouldn't I be the one asking first, master, this question?" Chen Fengxiao was taken aback, then smiled and said, "Little brother is really smart. You immediately saw the subtleties. Haha, although our grass division will be able to wash away our shame this time, of course, at the very least, we will be able to win 20%. But this 20% is comparable to the earnings of the previous 10 fights. This is all thanks to little brother." Zhang Xiaohua pursed his lips in amusement and said, "Don't. I can't contribute much. It's all first master's planning. I haven't even gone up to the stage, and you've already defeated Wu Dalong." "Heh." Chen Fengxiao did not hide his pride and said, "That was also because of little brother's deterrence yesterday. So, I still want to ask little brother about the situation. Don't let our grass division benefit, and let's not benefit." Zhang Xiaohua did not think much of it. He was no longer the young and inexperienced youth who had just left the Guo Manor a few years ago. It was not as if he had never shown his martial arts before. Chen Fengxiao's words were only to express his concern for him. As for whether he would be able to gain any benefits or not, it was actually not something he was concerned about. It could also be said that Chen Fengxiao had already estimated the areas where Zhang Xiaohua would be able to gain benefits. In the fight this afternoon, Wuzhou ruins had fallen into Chen Fengxiao's trap. He had sent out all the elites that he had confidence in. Those that could fight tomorrow, or those that could compete with Zhang Xiaohua, were not many. Under these circumstances, Chen Fengxiao did not believe that Zhang Xiaohua did not have some confidence. Zhang Xiaohua then said, "Headmaster Chen has arranged the plan so carefully. If little brother does not benefit from it, then it is little brother's own matter. I will not blame headmaster in my heart." Chen Fengxiao heard this and hurriedly waved his hand. He knew that Zhang Xiaohua had misunderstood his intentions. He said, "Actually, with little brother's martial arts, Even if you fought this afternoon according to Wu Dalong's plan, you would still be able to win. I don't dare to say anything else, but I have some confidence in my ability to judge people. I also have other plans for this arrangement." Zhang Xiaohua was taken aback. He frowned and said, "I ask for headmaster's advice." Qin Fengxiao thought for a while, then said tirelessly, "When I was young, my mother told me a story. A long, long time ago, there was a fool who did not know anything. He could not even distinguish copper coins from silver. Whenever someone threw a copper coin or a piece of silver, he only knew how to pick up the copper coin and never look at the silver. Thus, many people took pleasure in this and threw copper coins to him in front of others." Zhang Xiaohua did not understand. He smiled and said, "This child is really stupid. If it were me, I would have already put the silver in my bosom." Yes, the people in the village all said so, and they all enjoyed playing this game with him. It was not until this child grew up and suddenly disappeared from this village. Then, a few years later, he achieved great things in another village and returned to the village. Only then did the villagers realize that it was not that child who was stupid, but them. Ah. Zhang Xiaohua opened his mouth and said, "Why is that?" As soon as his voice fell, Zhang Xiaohua could not help but suck in a breath of cold air and said, "So that's why." Seeing Zhang Xiaohua's quick reaction, Qin Fengxiao's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. However, he immediately concealed it and said with a smile, "That's right. If that child was more like an ordinary person and could distinguish copper coins from silver, who would throw copper coins to him day after day to play with? If he picked up the silver in one go, how could he accumulate copper coins in the future?" "Headmaster Chen, you mean?" Zhang Xiaohua somewhat understood Qin Fengxiao's meaning. "I think little brother already knows what I mean. Why don't I arrange for little brother to be the first to fight against the experts of the pill department? On one hand, I want to disrupt Wu Dalong's subordinates and win his elixirs. On the other hand, I don't want little brother to reveal his true strength at the beginning. I know little brother will have no problem taking down first and second King Kong, but what about after that? Not only will the battle lose a lot of suspense, but little brother will also lose a lot of benefits." "Headmaster Chen, little brother does not understand what you mean. Concealing one's strength can naturally conceal one's strength and catch them off guard. However, the battle only seals the order. Others will not know who is fighting. What does this have to do with strength?" Qin Fengxiao said with a smile, "This is just a method of battle. Our Tianmu Peak has other methods of battle for the grass department and pill department to choose from. For example, we can name names and so on. However, our grass department has always been at a disadvantage, so we do not dare to casually agree to these methods." Zhang Xiaohua immediately understood and said to himself, "Wow, Headmaster Chen is indeed the headmaster. He thinks so far ahead. However, I have never planned to waste time on this battle. Why would I care about concealing one's strength?" Zhang Xiaohua cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your guidance, Headmaster. Little brother has never complained about Headmaster." Qin Fengxiao shook his head and said, "Little brother still does not understand what I mean." Isn't it concealing one's strength? What I mean to say is, don't you have 3 matches tomorrow? I've already asked Wu Dalong about it. Although he didn't want to say anything, I can tell from his expression that the opponents in these 3 matches aren't very skilled. What I want to say is, little brother, don't go up and knock out the opponent's teeth. You should at least let the crowd watch the show and let the opponent feel that you're a little stronger than him, or that your martial arts are on par with his and you're just lucky. Fainting, Headmaster, this seems to be quite difficult. Qin Fengxiao smiled slyly and said, "Don't worry and do as I say. You will naturally know the benefits in the future." "I see." Zhang Xiaohua was deep in thought and thought to himself, "Anyway, it's fine as long as I don't lose. This is an elixir worth 50 taels of gold. I don't want to throw it away." After a moment of silence, Qin Fengxiao coughed and said, "Little brother, this place is a little simple and crude. Are you used to it?" Zhang Xiaohua was stunned and said, "Headmaster is joking. I just slept last night. It's not that I am not used to it." Qin Fengxiao smiled awkwardly and said, "Actually, I came to find little brother so late because I have something to ask you." Zhang Xiaohua frowned and said, "What is so important? You could have just sent Senior Bai or Senior Chiu over. Why did you have to come personally? It's like this, little brother. I heard that you told Xiao Wei-chung to tell Lu Feng and the others that you will not fight for the title of Arhat with them. I know that this is little brother's noble character and unquestionable integrity. But little brother, are you not going to participate in such battles in the future? Of course I will. Why don't you participate? Zhang Xiaohua was taken aback and blurted out, thinking to himself, nonsense. If you can get benefits without any effort, why wouldn't you participate? Although there may not be so much in the future, but flies are also meat. If I don't even pick up the copper coins, then I am an idiot. When Qin Fengxiao heard this, his face lit up and he said happily, since little brother has replied like this, then my heart is at ease. To be honest, when you said that you were not going to fight for the title of Arhat, I thought that you were not interested in these battles. Just like those old consecrators, they are obviously greedy and want to fight. But because of their face, they are not willing to put down their status. They can only be the judges and watch us eat the meat while they drink the soup. Looks like little brother is not one to fish for fame. Zhang Xiaohua waved his hand and said, Headmaster also does not have the title of Arhat. Aren't you also participating in the battles? When he heard this, Qin Fengxiao's face changed slightly. When Zhang Xiaohua saw this, he hurriedly said, Io, little brother's analogy is not quite right. Headmaster, don't worry. When this battle is over, I will go to the top of Tianmu Peak to find a secluded medicine field and concentrate on growing medicine. I will definitely not get involved in any of the matters of the grass division. Oh, that's right. This battle. You can arrange it. When the time comes, just call me. I will definitely not decline. When he heard this, Qin Fengxiao's face softened a little. He laughed and said, Little brother, if you can help me, I will be more than happy. Why not let you be the second master? How about it? Don't. This famous title should be left to others. That's right. I think senior brother Qiu is very suitable. Qiu Wei-chung? Qin Fengxiao was stunned and said, Little brother's suggestion is not bad. If one day junior brother Qiu becomes the second master, I will let him thank you personally. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and did not say much. He was just joking. Who was the headmaster had nothing to do with him. After that, Qin Fengxiao kept his smile and said seriously, Little brother, I came over so late because I have an important matter to discuss with you. Calm. -3. Chapter 548. Gosh, Zhang Xiaohua almost scolded him. You've been dawdling for an entire night. You've said comforting words and given me a picture. So it's just a prelude. Sigh. Headmaster, do you have to be like this? Do you know that my time is very precious? Who knows how many mysteries of the heavenly Tao I've comprehended with just one rise and fall? However, the mature Zhang Xiaohua still smiled and said, Looks like it's a very important matter. Headmaster Chen, just say it. Although I've only been at Tianmu Peak for a day, your peerless leadership skills have already won me over. As long as Headmaster has something that doesn't make things difficult for you, I'm willing to go through a mountain of swords or a sea of fire for you. A sea of fire is not a problem. There's the fire escape technique. But a mountain of swords doesn't seem right. We have to find the gold escape technique first. Just listen to me first. Zhang Xiaohua muttered secretly. Qin Fengxiao looked a little embarrassed. He rubbed his hands and said, Actually, it's not that difficult. It's just that, it's a little hard to say. Looking at Chun Feng's bashful expression, Zhang Xiaohua felt a chill run down his spine. He quickly moved a few inches away as if nothing had happened and said seriously, This is not First Master's usual style. If you stomp your feet on Tianmu Peak, the entire peak will tremble. What's wrong with saying it out loud? Qin Fengxiao thought for a while and said, Sigh, this is really, really embarrassing. Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. Then, she suddenly understood and said softly, Why? Headmaster Chun, did you find Wu Dalong of the pill department an eyesore? Do you want me to teach him a lesson? Boss, I can't bring myself to say this, and it's quite embarrassing. However, it's normal. Their pill division has been suppressing our grass division for such a long time, and it's all because of you. Although this is a little difficult, and I might not be able to do it well, as long as boss asks, I'll definitely do it. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua's resolute action, Qin Fengxiao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He quickly waved his hand and said, Stop, stop, stop. Little brother, what are you thinking? I'm only here to ask you to give me that Yuandan pill. Zhang Xiaohua was really stunned this time. Yuandan pill? Seeing Zhang Xiaohua's shocked expression, Qin Fengxiao smiled bitterly and said, Little brother, I knew it. Little brother, just pretend I didn't say that. Don't, boss, what are you doing? Isn't it just a ruined pill? When Zhang Xiaohua heard this, he immediately put on a righteous appearance and patted his chest. Besides, this junior brother came to Tianmu Peak and caused trouble for the first master, causing the first master to worry endlessly. There will be a lot of things to do in the future. Although the first master's request is somewhat difficult for this junior brother also needs this pill. But since the first master has spoken, how can this junior brother let his words fall? Not to mention a ruined pill. Even if it's the real Yuandan pill, why can't I give it to Headmaster Chen? Oh, right. How does Headmaster Chen plan to let me sell this pill? Qin Fengxiao was smiling as he listened to Zhang Xiaohua's flattery. Suddenly, Zhang Xiaohua changed the topic and brought up how to sell the pill. He couldn't think straight and was stunned. Seeing this, Zhang Xiaohua knew that things weren't good. She had flattered him too much. What if Qin Fengxiao didn't give a good price? Fortunately, Qin Fengxiao immediately realized and thought, this guy is realistic. However, he's from Rejuvenation Valley after all. How would he know the wonders of this Yuandan pill? Even if it's ruined, it's still a treasure. Therefore, Qin Fengxiao asked, then what do you think will make you sell this pill, little brother? This? Zhang Xiaohua muttered to herself. How could she know what Qin Fengxiao saw in this broken pill? She also didn't know what use this Yuandan pill had in the incense cult. She could only cup her hands and say, Headmaster, don't make things difficult for me. Just tell me what you think. As long as it's reasonable, I will definitely agree. She emphasized the word reasonable and believed that Qin Fengxiao would understand. Little brother, to be honest, our Tianmu Peak's grass division has been struggling these past few years. I don't have any particularly rare pills here. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua's expression change slightly, Qin Fengxiao immediately explained, however, don't worry, little brother. I can still take out something worth 50 taels of gold. Zhang Xiaohua waved his hand and said generously, look at what the headmaster is saying. Even if you can't take out something of equivalent value, how can I not agree if you ask? It's good that little brother is in such a good mood. As the headmaster, how can I take advantage of little brother? It's just that Wu Dalong suddenly took out this jade rejuvenation pill in the afternoon, which caught me off guard. So, I took advantage of the fact that the banquet hasn't ended yet to inform you. I haven't prepared the specific pill yet. Hearing this, Zhang Xiaohua was a little puzzled and asked in confusion, if the Yuandan pill is so important, why would Wu Dalong take it out as a prize? Moreover, it's not a prize for the battle, but a reward for me. Headmaster, don't you think this is strange? Qin Fengxiao nodded and said, that's right. Qin Fengxiao also nodded and said, that's right. To tell you the truth, Wu Dalong also came out of the banquet just now. He also came to look for you. I asked him about it on the way here, and he also said that it was for this jade rejuvenation pill. But no matter how I asked him, since he valued it so much, why did he take it out as a prize? He just wouldn't tell me. However, judging from his remorseful look, he must have used this jade rejuvenation pill as bait to force you to take out the golden leaf as the prize. I see. Zhang Xiaohua seemed to understand. He was too smart for his own good. He thought he could win the Yuandan pill back in the first round, but he fell into Head's trap. He could only wait until tomorrow to win the Yuandan pill back. However, he obviously wasn't confident tomorrow, so he thought of coming to discuss with me tonight. Qin Fengxiao nodded and said, I think so. However, little brother, don't worry. I've already sent him away. Since the Yuandan pill has fallen into the hands of the grass division, we naturally have the right to speak. How could he have the right to speak? Zhang Xiaohua also nodded. She understood the argument between the two in the bamboo forest earlier. Qin Fengxiao continued, blood replenishing pill, blood coagulation pill, small bone congealing pill, and small bone strengthening pill. Each bottle is worth 10 taels of gold. One Yuandan pill is worth 40 taels of gold. Little brother, I have 15 bottles of pills that are similar to the ones mentioned above. I'll use them to exchange for your Yuandan pill. What do you think? Oh, of course, if little brother agrees, you can keep the Yuandan pill first. Tomorrow morning, I'll bring those pills over to you. Hearing this condition, Zhang Xiaohua was greatly disappointed. She frowned and said, Head's condition is so good. How can little brother not agree? But why don't you use gold to exchange for it? Cheng Shi and the others don't have it. Don't tell me you don't have it too? I don't have it. Chun Fengxiao didn't leave any room for negotiation. He said, gold and silver are basically useless in the fragrance division. Only the hall leaders have the channels to obtain them. I'm just a small steward. How can I have it? If I had it, Wu Dalong would have it even more. He wouldn't have taken out this Yuandan pill. But what use do I have for so many broken pills? Zhang Xiaohua secretly muttered. Then her eyes lit up. She said with a smile, Head, I have a suggestion. I wonder if you'd like to hear it. Qin Fengxiao was quite interested. He asked, Little brother, quickly say it. Head, as you can see, I have some pills in my bag. Today, Wu Dalong also lost some. If you give more than 10 bottles of pills, won't it be too much? To be honest, I don't need them. Why don't you see if you have any 1,000-year-old medicinal herbs? What do you think about exchanging them? 1,000-year-old medicinal herbs? When Chen Fengxiao heard this, he almost stood up in fright. He said in his heart, It's easy for you to say that. 1,000-year-old medicinal herbs, you dare to say that. Looking at Zhang Xiaohua, Chen Fengxiao said with a bitter smile, Little brother, you're new here and don't know. Although our grass department specializes in growing medicinal herbs, but we only grow ordinary ones. Even if there are some rare herbs, we have a record of them. How can you and I get our hands on them? Not to mention 1,000-year-old medicinal herbs, even 100-year-old ones are rare. So it's like this. Zhang Xiaohua blinked and said, Our Tianmu Peak doesn't have any, but the 19 peaks of the fragrance division are so big. Who can guarantee that there aren't hundreds and thousands of years old medicinal herbs? Maybe one of the senior brothers has such a medicinal herb? Chun Fengxiao shook his head and said, Although the fragrance division is vast, there are also many wild medicinal herbs. There are even many places that are rarely visited. Maybe there are medicinal herbs that little brother is talking about. However, our grass department brothers' martial arts are weak and their lightness skills are even worse. Even the outer disciples can't easily enter those places, let alone our brothers of the Pill Expanding Hall. Those places? Zhang Xiaohua rolled his eyes. He really wanted to ask where it was from, but then Xinfeng smiled and said tentatively, Little brother, if you can give me an age limit, for example, 50 to 60 years old, maybe I can look for it. Is that so? Zhang Xiaohua was happy in her heart, but still frowned and said, If it's difficult for Head, 50 to 60 years old medicinal herbs are also fine. However, do you think Wu Dalong of the pill department has 100-year-old medicinal herbs? Chun Fengxiao listened with a displeased face. Little brother is a brother of our grass department. How can you help an outsider? Of course not. Little brother was just curious and asked Wu Dalong if he had it. Since Head has taken a fancy to this pill, of course I won't give it to Wu Dalong. Please don't worry about this. Well, little brother, keep the Yuandan pill first. Remember, no matter who comes, don't sell it. Just tell them that you're keeping it for me. I'll go back and take a look at the medicinal herbs. I'll bring it over tomorrow. Thank you. Come to read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. -3. Chapter 549. Hearing this, Zhang Xiaohua's face lit up. She said, Boss, why are you being so courteous? Take your time searching. I'll keep the Yuandan pill for you. Qin Fengxiao cupped his hands and said, Thank you, little brother. I'll take my leave now. I'll go back and search carefully. To be honest, I have quite a lot of medicinal herbs. Although I lost a lot to the pill department, it's still very little after so many years. After saying this, Chun Fengxiao stood up and turned to leave. However, he didn't forget to remind her, Little brother, if anyone comes looking for you, don't give the Yuandan pill to them. Zhang Xiaohua was immediately unhappy when she heard this. She thought to herself, Is my character that bad? I just promised you that I'll get the medicinal herbs tomorrow morning. How can I give it to someone else? Therefore, Zhang Xiaohua stood up and said, Boss, please wait a moment. After saying this, she walked to the table next to her and opened up the bundle that she had packed. She took out the Yuandan pill that Chen Fengxiao was determined to get. She casually threw it to him and said, "If boss doesn't trust me, or if you're afraid that someone else will take it away, then you can take the pill first." Chen Fengxiao hurriedly caught the jade bottle that Zhang Xiaohua had thrown to him. He was very happy in his heart. This guy has finally been enlightened. I'll have a bright future in training him. However, he declined. This isn't good, little brother. Even blood-related brothers settle accounts clearly. If you do this, you'll make things difficult for me. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "What kind of person is boss? If I don't trust you, then there won't be anyone on Tianmu Peak worth trusting." "Good, little brother. Well said. I'll remember your feelings." It was rare for Chen Fengxiao to be so happy that he even blurted out the name Chen. Presumably, he would wake up laughing even in his dreams tonight. Chen Fengxiao carefully tucked the jade bottle into his bosom, cupped his hands, and quickly walked out of the small courtyard. His footsteps were so light that they didn't seem to touch the ground at all. Behind him, Zhang Xiaohua couldn't help but shake her head. He really didn't feel that this ruined Yuandan pill was of any use. Otherwise, he would have taken a look at it back then. Seeing that it was getting late, Zhang Xiaohua sat down again and prepared to use the remaining time to work harder. But at this moment, a voice called out from outside the courtyard. Junior Brother Ren, are you in the courtyard?" Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. It was almost midnight. Who would be screaming? When she looked with her divine sense, she saw two people standing outside the courtyard. One was Senior Brother Bai Huan, and the other was an old consecrator who made the ruling in the gambling arena during the day. Zhang Xiaohua was surprised at first, but then she muttered, "Is it because of this Yuandan pill again?" Therefore, she didn't dare to be negligent. As she walked out, she answered loudly, "Which senior brother is looking for me? Please come in for a chat." Hearing Zhang Xiaohua's response, Bai Huan led the old consecrator into the courtyard. Zhang Xiaohua was shocked and quickly bowed. "Consecrator," Bai Huan explained, "Junior Brother Ren, this is the old consecrator of our pill repository hall. His surname is Feng. He's very popular on Tianmu Peak and is best at guiding the younger generation." Zhang Xiaohua bowed again and said, "Consecrator Feng, how are you? If there's anything, just send someone to call for me. How can I let you come here personally?" Consecrator Feng had heard of Zhang Xiaohua's fierce behavior last night and was afraid that she wouldn't give him face. Now that he saw that Zhang Xiaohua was respectful and courteous like a well-educated and well-behaved child, he couldn't help but feel happy. Therefore, he supported her, stroked his beard and said, "Junior nephew Ron, although I'm considered an elder of the sect, I'm from the pill division and I'm from the grass division. We don't know each other well, so I don't dare to act rashly." After hearing this, Zhang Xiaohua hurriedly invited Consecrator Feng into the room and sat down. Then, she asked carefully, "May I know why Consecrator Feng is looking for me?" Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua went straight to the point, Consecrator Feng nodded secretly and glanced at Bai Huan. Bai Huan woke up and said, "Junior Brother Ren, didn't Wu Dalong of the pill division compensate you with a Yuandan pill at the gambling arena earlier? Consecrator Feng is very interested in this pill and asked me to bring him here to ask you if you can transfer the pill to him." Then, she glanced at Consecrator Feng and added, "He's willing to pay a high price and will definitely satisfy Junior Brother Ren." As expected, Zhang Xiaohua nodded secretly. However, she was also puzzled. Was there any secret about this Yuandan pill that she did not know? After thinking for a while, Zhang Xiaohua said apologetically, "Although I've only met Consecrator Feng once, since Senior Brother Bai brought him here and he's a consecrator of the hall, there shouldn't be any problem with this matter." But Consecrator Feng frowned and could not help but ask, "What?" But before Consecrator Feng arrived, Headmaster Chun took the pill away first. "This?" Consecrator Feng was a little anxious and said, "How can it be so coincidental? I saw them drinking together, so I hurriedly called Marshal Nephew Bai over. Could it be that I was still a step too late?" Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, "I don't dare to deceive Consecrator Feng. Look." After speaking, she opened her bag and the pill inside was revealed. Although Consecrator Feng was a little embarrassed, he still took a closer look. The Yuhuandan pill was indeed not there. They came here rashly, and Zhang Xiaohua definitely did not have the ability to foresee the future, so she would not have hidden it in advance. Consecrator Feng was already somewhat convinced. He then saw Zhang Xiaohua say, "If Consecrator Feng needs it urgently, you can chase after Headmaster Chen now. He also just left and may not have returned yet." Consecrator Feng's face was full of disappointment. He shook his head gently and said, "No, no, no. Sai, if I had known, I would have stopped you on the spot. All right, Marshal Nephew Ren, thank you very much. I'll take my leave." After speaking, he cupped his hands and walked out of the house without staying any longer. Bai Huan, who was sitting on the chair, also quickly stood up. She waved her hand at Zhang Xiaohua and chased after him. Nonsense. The bamboo forest outside was so gloomy. He did not dare to stay alone. Zhang Xiaohua pretended to send him off. When she reached the door, the two had already left the courtyard. Standing under the water-like moonlight, Zhang Xiaohua was deep in thought. A defective Yuhuandan pill was enough to make them fight over it. What about the real Yuhuandan pill? Hee. Zhang Xiaohua's face was full of smiles. She still had a few pills in her money pouch. Chen Fengxiao had been here, Bai Huan had been here, and Consecrator Feng had also been here. Presumably, the news that the Yuhuandan pill was no longer with her would soon spread throughout the entire Tianmu Peak. In the future, no one would come to trouble her. However, using the Yuhuandan pill to exchange for medicinal herbs reminded Zhang Xiaohua. Pills were hard currency on Tianmu Peak, but medicinal herbs were worthless. It should be very easy to exchange pills for medicinal herbs. Should she exchange all the pills she won tomorrow for medicinal herbs? It seemed that tomorrow's gambling fight was not a gambling fight, but a welcoming party for her by the pill department. Zhang Xiaohua released her divine sense and roughly scanned her surroundings. After confirming that there were no abnormalities, she closed the courtyard door and set up a restriction. She then concentrated on practicing the Worry-Free Heart Sutra. The next morning, Zhang Xiaohua had just finished practicing the Fist of the North Star when she saw Chen Fengxiao walking over with a smile. Behind him was still Wei Cheng. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua walking over from the cliff, Chen Fengxiao laughed loudly and said, "Little brother, you are indeed a diligent person. I thought you had not woken up yet. Who knew that you had already practiced martial arts once?" Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "The early bird gets the worm. This is what my mother told me when I was very young. I have been stupid since I was young, so I had to wake up earlier than others." Hearing this, Chen Fengxiao's expression was not happy. He said sadly, "Sigh, my mother also said this when I was young. It's just that. Haha, little brother is still young and has a lot of time. You must practice your martial arts well. When you travel the Jianghu in the future, you must remember to visit your mother more often." Seeing Chen Fengxiao reveal his true feelings, Zhang Xiaohua sighed. Regardless of whether this person was good or bad, or whether his actions were right or wrong, at least when he talked about his mother, he was filial. This person had his redeeming qualities. Zhang Xiaohua said apologetically, "Leader, please don't blame me. I spoke inappropriately and made you think too much." Chen Fengxiao waved his hand and said, "No need to be so polite, little brother. Yesterday I made it clear that you are my brother. In front of your own brother, why do you care so much?" Then, with a wave of his hand, Wei Cheng, who was behind him, passed a small bag to Zhang Xiaohua. Chen Fengxiao smiled and said, "Little brother, in this bag are the medicinal herbs that I promised you yesterday. Take a look. There is one iron bone grass that is almost 70 years old. The other herbs are not as good, but they are still around 30 years old." Iron bone grass? Zhang Xiaohua was stunned in thought. Isn't this the main ingredient of the bone-solidifying pill? Zhang Xiaohua took the bag and said, "Leader, you said that you were my brother and that there was no need to be so polite. Why are you being so polite? Didn't you say that there was only one herb yesterday? Why are there more herbs today?" "Little brother, you are wrong. This Yuhuandan pill is something that I have been coveting for a long time. Not to mention these herbs, even if there were more, I would be willing to take them out. I am taking advantage of little brother by doing this." "Oh, right." Saying this, Chen Fengxiao took out a jade bottle from his chest and passed it to Zhang Xiaohua, saying, "This is the blood-replenishing pill. Perhaps it will be useful in today's battle. Take it." Zhang Xiaohua declined and said, "This thing has already been compensated by Wu Delong yesterday. I also brought some from Rejuvenation Valley. Furthermore, you have already given me so many herbs, this is not necessary." Chen Fengxiao stuffed it into his hands and said with a smile, take it. This way, my heart will be at ease." Zhang Xiaohua had no choice but to accept it. However, holding the warm jade bottle, Zhang Xiaohua suddenly asked, "That's right, leader, I have a question. Look, this jade bottle is originally made of jade, and this jade seems to be about the same as the golden leaf. Why did you casually give away this jade bottle that contains the pills and become flustered when you see the golden leaf? Isn't it a bit like buying the casket and returning the pearls? Please vote for me, recommend me. Come and read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. -3. Chapter 550. When Qinfeng heard this, he shook his head and said, "Little brother is right. I remember when I was a child outside, jade was very precious. It was no less valuable than gold. But little brother only saw one side of it and did not see the other side. Generally speaking, the rarer something is, the more precious it is. In this fragrant religion, there are countless jade stones, just like ordinary stones. Why would you care about it? Even if others see them as treasures, they are nothing but rubble in our eyes." Countless? Zhang Xiaohua was stunned and asked, "How did Chuanxiang cult get so many jades?" "This?" Chen Fengxiao pondered for a moment and said in a low voice, "Chuanxiang cult has a special Shuyu hall that mines jades from Jihua Peak. It is said that in these thousands of years, there hasn't been much mining, but there is still an inexhaustible supply of jades. Tell me, in our eyes, can jades be compared to gold leaves?" "Oh, so that's how it is." Zhang Xiaohua came to a sudden realization. Presumably, there was a jade mine beneath 9 Radiance Peak. That was why it was able to provide an endless supply of jade for the incense cult to use. No matter how precious a jade was, it wouldn't be worth much and could only be used as a bottle. "Oh, right. Headmaster Qin, yesterday Feng." Zhang Xiaohua told Qin Fengxiao about Feng's visit last night. Qin Fengxiao nodded. "Yes, Bai Huan already reported this to me last night." It's already the middle of the night." Qin Fengxiao chuckled. "When he heard that I was the one who took it, he was afraid that he would violate my taboo by bringing Feng here. Do you think he would be so diligent?" Qiu Weiqing also laughed. "After Headmaster Qin knew about this, he immediately told me to spread the news of him taking the Yuandan pill. Junior brother Ren, don't worry, no one will disturb you in the future." Zhang Xiaohua thanked him. "Headmaster is very considerate." Qin Fengxiao looked at the rising sun and said, "Little brother, it's time for breakfast. Let's go. Don't let anyone send you food. Eat with me." "Deliver food?" Zhang Xiaohua touched her nose and smiled bitterly. She had lived here for 2 days and had forgotten to eat. She had fasted for a long time and didn't want to eat. Bai Huan thought that Qin Fengxiao would arrange it for her, and Qin Fengxiao thought that Bai Huan would arrange it for her, so no one sent her food. Zhang Xiaohua followed Qin Fengxiao and Qiu Weiqing to the place where they were eating. It was an exquisite small hall. On a huge table, the 6 great arhats and the other managers of the cottage were already seated, quietly waiting for Headmaster Chun to come over. When they saw Zhang Xiaohua behind Qin Fengxiao, their eyes lit up and they stood up. Walking into the small hall, Qin Fengxiao and Qiu Weiqing sat down. Zhang Xiaohua bowed to everyone and also found a place to sit. Just as he sat down, Lu Quan, who was beside him, came over and said in a low voice, "Little brother, I was just about to look for you. But before the battle, if there was nothing urgent, I could not disturb you." "So?" Zhang Xiaohua was stunned and asked, "Senior Lu, what's the matter?" Lu Quan raised his head and looked around. He lowered his voice and said, "Junior brother Ren, can you give me a small bone-solidifying elixir?" "Oh yes, I will not take it for free. I will give you herbs to exchange for it." Then, he smiled apologetically. "I know this is not appropriate, but this small bone-solidifying elixir is useful to me. Since you were able to let the headmaster exchange herbs for elixirs yesterday, can you also give me some face?" Zhang Xiaohua was happy, but his face was extremely awkward. He said, "Senior Lu, you are putting me in a difficult position. This elixir can only be made by the offerings of the Dan department, and all of them have to be turned in. I only have one bottle of small bone solidifying elixir in my hand now. If I use it up, I will have no more. Although the herbs are good, they are not elixirs after all. Difficult, haha, difficult. Lu Quan frowned. Little brother, your martial arts are high. This small bone solidifying elixir may not be of use to you. Moreover, if you can exchange it with the headmaster, why can't you exchange it with me? This is the first time senior brother has spoken. Won't you carefully and seriously consider it? Zhang Xiaohua was still secretly happy. He only asked, then senior brother can't exchange it with other elixirs? Elixirs? If I have elixirs, why would I exchange it with you? The elixirs of our grass department have already been lost to the Dan department, and the elixirs of the Dan department are all in the hands of the 10 great guardian deities. Where do you want me to get elixirs? Zhang Xiaohua understood and also said in a low voice, all right, since this is the first time senior brother Lu has spoken, I can't let him lose face. However, senior brother, you must listen carefully. You must not tell anyone about this, otherwise. Lu Quan interrupted him in a low voice. How can I not know about this? I won't tell anyone, don't worry. After saying that, he carefully looked to the side. The others who were accompanying Chen Fengxiao and chatting had already pricked up their ears. Although they spoke softly, Zhang Xiaohua didn't believe that they didn't hear it. Moreover, looking at Lu Quan's appearance, although he said that he wouldn't, who knew if he would turn around and tell anyone? Sure enough, after Zhang Xiaohua and the rest had finished their breakfast, just as they walked out of the small hall, Si Huinan pulled Zhang Xiaohua to one side sneakily. He also wanted to exchange herbs for elixirs, but what he wanted was the blood coagulation pill. Zhang Xiaohua sighed helplessly. Under Si Huinan's persuasion, she had no choice but to agree to his request. She used a 40-year-old blackwood fruit to exchange for a blood coagulation pill. This blackwood fruit was the other main ingredient in refining the bone coagulation pill. Naturally, Zhang Xiaohua repeatedly reminded Si Huinan and to not tell anyone about her exchange of elixirs. As for whether Si Huinan would say it or not, that would depend on his character. Or rather, it would depend on Zhang Xiaohua's character. Zhang Xiaohua had already been to the gambling arena yesterday, so she didn't need anyone to lead the way. When she took her bag and arrived at the arena, there were already many disciples sitting there. It was actually 30% more than yesterday. Zhang Xiaohua was shocked. She walked to Qiu Weicheng's side and asked him. After hearing about the gambling match between the grass and pill divisions yesterday, as well as the fact that he, a popular disciple, would definitely be on stage today, many disciples who usually didn't pay much attention to the gambling match became interested and came here early in the morning to fight for a seat. Zhang Xiaohua was speechless. This person's curiosity was really strong. Not long later, Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxiu accompanied the 5 consecrators into the arena. Old consecrator Lei placed the seal box on the table. The two of them took out their keys and unlocked the box before returning to their respective sides. Old consecrator Lei looked at the crowd and smiled. Yesterday, Chen Fengxiao from the grass division gave us a very big surprise. I just don't know if Wu Zhouxiu from the pill division can reverse yesterday's decline. Disciples of the grass division and pill division, please place your bets. However, when old consecrator Lei said this bet, he lacked confidence. Everyone knew that yesterday, in order to seize the initiative and obtain the real object of 50 taels of gold, not only did the Dan division take out the Jade Rejuvenation Pill, they even sent out the 4 absolute main forces, the Great Vajra, the Second Vajra, the Third Vajra, and the Fourth Vajra. Although they obtained 2 victories, their opponents were only the 5th Arhat and the 6th Arhat. Today, the Dan division only had the 8th Arhat and the 10th Arhat, but the Grass division still had the 2nd Arhat, the 3rd Arhat, and Zhang Xiaohua, this mysterious contestant whose martial arts level was unknown. The 3rd King Kong and 6th King Kong's martial arts were basically on par. They were slightly weaker than 5th King Kong. These 2 King Kong had a good chance of winning against the 5th King Kong. Since Zhang Xiaohua was able to beat 10th King Kong until his teeth fell out, his martial arts should be about the same as the 3rd King Kong. Therefore, the pill division's future was worrying. However, Chen Fengxiao's arrangement had some flaws. This morning, he actually let Zhang Xiaohua fight 3 times. This was something that had never happened since the beginning of the gambling fights on Tianmu Peak. It should be the only chance for the pill division to even things out. When the disciples below the arena heard the bets, they were also in a difficult position. The first round was most likely the mysterious Grass Division disciple. If he met 5th King Kong and 6th King Kong, there was still a chance of winning. If he met 10th King Kong and 8th King Kong, not long after, the bets were placed. Old Consecrator Lay smiled and took out a brocade bag. He shouted, "The 6th round, the Grass Division will fight Ren Xiaoyao." Okay. The morale of the Grass Division disciples was greatly boosted. They all raised their arms and cheered. Zhang Xiaohua stood up and waved to the disciples behind him. He walked slowly into the arena. He didn't show off or say anything. He just stood there quietly. Old Consecrator Lay was also stunned. He thought to himself, "This brat can keep his composure." Then, he took out another brocade bag. When he opened the note inside, he couldn't help but reveal a strange smile. Then, he held back his laughter and shouted, "The 6th round, the Pill Division will fight Chengshi." Not only was the Pill Division surprised, but the Grass Division also cried out. Why was Zhang Xiaohua famous? Wasn't it because he taught Chengshi a lesson? He knocked out Chengshi's teeth and even accepted the Pill Division representative's compensation worth 50 taels of gold. Now that the two of them met, was it because they were enemies? Or was it because they were once bitten by a snake, twice shy? Everyone was excited. There were also many people who secretly complained. They had bet on the Pill Division to win. When he heard his name being called, Chengshi stood up. Yesterday, when he saw that Zhang Xiaohua did not appear in any of the matches, and that he had to appear in 3 matches, and he was the first match today, Chengshi knew that he would most likely meet Zhang Xiaohua. Thus, he was not surprised. He stood up confidently, picked up a chi mei staff from the ground, and entered the arena. Although swords and sabers weren't prohibited in Timu Peak's gambling matches, this was still a gambling match between Pill Division disciples. It wasn't good to be injured. Therefore, everyone wisely didn't bring any weapons. Chengshi's weapon was the chi mei cudgel. It was suitable for him to use it now. Chengshi held the chi mei cudgel and made a stance. He called out, "Junior Brother Ren, we meet again." "Yes, I'm very honored to be able to experience Senior Brother Cheng's skills again. I've already experienced your punches and kicks. Today, I would like to ask Junior Brother Ren for advice on weapons. I hope Junior Brother will not be stingy." Chengshi squinted his eyes and said. Zhang Xiaohua shook his head. "Then I'll have to disappoint Senior Brother Cheng. I don't know anything about weapons. It's better to fight barehanded." When the audience heard this, there was an uproar. "Please vote for me." -3. Chapter 551. Everyone had seen carelessness before, but none of the disciples of the Grass Division and Pill Division had ever seen such carelessness before. In the previous battles, there were times when the great guardian deity of the Pill Division met the 6 arhats of the Grass Division, and there were times when he would be careless. However, he had never used his bare hands to fight against a weapon like this. Moreover, this was a battle with a stake of 50 taels of gold. Even the great guardian deity Zhou Shuming wouldn't dare to be so careless. When Chengshi heard this, a brilliant expression appeared on his face. Even though he had lost a few teeth after being beaten up by Zhang Xiaohua 2 nights ago, he was still one of the 10 great guardian deities. Cough, cough. Even though he was at the bottom, he still had some unique skills, especially this staff technique. He had received guidance from an inner disciple in his early years, and had also devoted himself to practicing it for a period of time. Even Zhou Shuming of the Pill Department would praise it endlessly when he saw it. It was one of Chengshi's trump cards. When the name of the last battle was announced, his first reaction was that he would meet Zhang Xiaohua the next day. His second reaction was to seek revenge, and his third reaction was naturally to use the chi mei staff. That day, Chengshi had suffered a loss at the hands of Zhang Xiaohua. He had always felt that Zhang Xiaohua's hands and feet were only average. It was because he didn't take him seriously that Zhang Xiaohua's sneak attack succeeded. Of course, Chengshi also knew that his hands and feet were only average. Only with a staff would he have the confidence to get back the hatred from Zhang Xiaohua. Yes, and that 50 taels of gold. When he heard Zhang Xiaohua say that he wasn't good at using weapons, Chengshi felt as if he was dreaming. It was as if there were 50 taels of gold hanging above his head. He laughed and said, "Junior Brother Ren, Are you sure you don't want to use a weapon? Zhang Xiaohua asked curiously. Could it be that there is a rule in our Tianmu Peak that if you use a weapon, I must use a weapon? If that's the case, then I can only reluctantly find a weapon. Cheng Shi hurriedly waved his hands. No, our Tianmu Peak's duels are quite humane. If you don't want to use it, others won't force you. However, junior brother Ren doesn't use a weapon and I, as his senior brother, use a weapon instead. Wouldn't others say that I'm bullying him? Oh no, it should be bullying him? It's still not right. Seeing Cheng Shi so conflicted, Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, Then does senior apprentice brother Cheng not want to use weapons? Cheng Shi tightened his grip on the Qimei staff and said nervously, I did have such an idea, but since I'm going to fight with a strong opponent like junior brother Ren, I naturally have to use my most powerful move. Only then will I be worthy of you, junior brother Ren. Don't you think so? If I'm also empty-handed, I'll tell you later that I'm best at staff techniques. Even if you win, isn't it a little unfair? These words were said very smoothly. Perhaps he had already thought of the wording last night. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and cupped her hands. Then I thank senior apprentice brother Cheng for valuing me. Can we start now? Look, old consecrated Lei has been impatient for a long time. Of course, you took a weapon and still dawdled to explain to the other party that you're empty-handed. It seemed like you had no choice. How could the others not frown when they saw this? Cheng Shi smiled awkwardly and twirled his staff in the air. He shouted, Since that's the case, junior brother Ren, pay attention. I'm going to make my move. After he finished speaking, he raised his leg and pounced over, striking his staff at Cheng Shi's head. Sigh, senior apprentice brother Cheng, you've already taken advantage of the weapon, but you still won't let me make a few moves? You actually want to make the first move. Looking at your bearing, it's not something an expert should have. Zhang Xiaohua secretly criticized in her heart. Although she thought this, Zhang Xiaohua didn't want to test the results of her cultivation of the Big Dipper Divine Fist with the top of her head when she saw the Qimei staff smashing down with a whoosh. Therefore, she still released her divine sense. When the Qimei staff was about to finish its move, she dodged to the side and then grabbed with her hand, directly grabbing the head of the staff. When Cheng Shi saw this, he was secretly delighted. His hand shook and the staff flew out, striking towards Zhang Xiaohua's hand. Although the staff looked good, in the divine sense, it was flashy but not practical. Zhang Xiaohua slightly tilted her hand, grabbing the place where the Qimei staff was about to hit. But just as she was about to grab it, Zhang Xiaohua suddenly remembered what Qin Fengxiao said last night. She unconsciously smiled and said, loosening the reins only to grasp them better. Oh, or in other words, casting a long line to catch a big fish. Who doesn't know how to do that? Therefore, she clenched her hand and used her fist to hit the Qimei staff. She immediately retracted her hand with a painful expression on her face, as if she was really hit by the Qimei staff. She even sucked in a breath of cold air. That resemblance. Even Qin Fengxiao, who was watching the battle from the side, felt his heart tighten. He secretly said, Oh no, this guy is too arrogant. He's going to suffer. Since even Qin Fengxiao was fooled, there was no need to say anything more about Cheng Shi. His heart was filled with joy. That staff of his danced with a whistling sound, sweeping horizontally towards Zhang Xiaohua's waist. Zhang Xiaohua retracted her hand into her sleeve. Like a sparrow hawk, she somersaulted and soared into the air. Once again, she evaded the attack. She stretched out her left fist and punched towards Cheng Shi's face. Cheng Shi's move did not stop. He quickly withdrew the Qimei staff and held it horizontally in front of his eyes. Zhang Xiaohua's left fist landed on the Qimei staff. If it was a normal day, Zhang Xiaohua's punch would have a force of 10,000 G. Not to mention a wooden staff, even an iron staff would be smashed. Wouldn't Cheng Shi vomit blood and die? Since Zhang Xiaohua wanted to stab a pig's nose with scallions, of course she couldn't use her strength. She only knocked on the staff and immediately used the force to somersault backwards. After staggering a few steps, she steadied herself. Alarmed, she said, Senior martial brother Cheng, how can your martial arts be this high? Little brother was quite lucky the day before yesterday. Cheng Shi's face lit up, as if 50 tails of gold were shining. He shouted, Ha ha, now you know how powerful I am. Why haven't you admitted defeat yet? Zhang Xiaohua waved her hand. Don't. If I admit defeat now, I won't be able to see the elegant demeanor of your Dan Department's Jin gang. It's better to give little brother a chance. Let me admire you a bit more. This brat was still teasing others at this time. However, the ecstatic Cheng Shi might not be able to hear the word admire in his words. Just look at how he swung the staff in a sweeping away 1,000-army posture. He did not give Zhang Xiaohua a chance to catch her breath. Zhang Xiaohua was also helpless. She could only restrain her temper and fight with him. She had to praise Zhang Xiaohua. This brat's martial arts had reached an extremely high level. He was no longer limited to using the fixed fist of the North Star, but just according to Cheng Shi's moves, she casually came up with a stance to deal with him. Every move was derived from the fist of the North Star, only some angles and the height of some arms were not the same. He consciously knew that these moves were derived from the 108 moves, or it could be said that there were a total of 216 moves. But in the eyes of others, different moves were constantly appearing. Moreover, Zhang Xiaohua's ethereal steps was slightly activated. Her whereabouts were erratic. Her fists and palms were also untraceable. Cheng Shi's Qimei cudgel danced like a dragon swinging its tail as it chased after Zhang Xiaohua, but it could not even touch the corner of Zhang Xiaohua's clothes. Some people whose martial arts were slightly higher, such as the 5 consecrators, Qin Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxiu, seemed to have noticed something strange. Although they could not truly estimate Zhang Xiaohua's martial arts, but from Zhang Xiaohua's ordinary moves that could turn something rotten into something magical, they could already feel that Cheng Shi was definitely not her opponent. As for whether Zhang Xiaohua could win against the 8 Vajra and the others, they also did not know in their hearts. As the saying goes, those who are closely involved cannot see clearly. Now, it could not be more appropriate to describe Cheng Shi. Seeing Cheng Shi's cudgel strike after strike, he always felt that he could knock down or force Zhang Xiaohua out of the circle. But Zhang Xiaohua was always like Xiaohua in the wind. No matter how strong or weak the wind was, he would always sway in the same posture, big or small, but he did not stick to the ground. Even if the wind was blowing to the point that it was about to break, but when the wind was weak, he would immediately stand up straight. Thus, Cheng Shi became more and more attentive and used more and more strength. He had long put aside his gradually disordered inner breath and gradually long breaths. Under his single-minded focus, he took the initiative to attack Zhang Xiaohua's unbearable strength as he fought and retreated at the same time. The two people's battle group gradually moved to the side, gradually moving towards the Grass Division disciples. And the sound of the Qimei cudgel swinging out made the Grass Division disciples tremble in fear even from afar. And when Qiuwei Cheng, who was standing in front of the disciples, saw Zhang Xiaohua coming back, the corners of his mouth curled up. He pulled Qin Fengxiao's sleeve and pointed at his feet. Qin Fengxiao immediately understood. He turned around to look at the disciples and waved his hand. The dozens of disciples in the front row also had a face of joy. They bent their waists and carefully retreated to the back. When the back row rose into the air, Qin Fengxiao and Qiuwei Cheng brought the 6 great Luohan and moved back a lot, creating a large space in front of them. When the Pill Division disciples opposite them saw this, they all stuck out their middle fingers and gestured towards the Grass Division opposite them. Then, they loudly cheered, hoping that Cheng Shi could hear them. Unfortunately, Cheng Shi had long taken the Pill Division disciples' reminders as encouragement. When he swung his cudgel at Zhang Xiaohua, he didn't even let them look towards the Pill Division. He swung his hair very confidently and didn't even notice the problem of walking out of the arena. Nonsense. The Grass Division disciples were still some distance away. Moreover, wasn't Zhang Xiaohua in front of him? Even if he walked out of the arena, Zhang Xiaohua would be the one to do it first. What was he afraid of? Actually, even Qin Fengxiao and the rest were sweating. Zhang Xiaohua kept retreating, obviously wanting to drag Cheng Shi out of the arena. But there were no eyes behind him. How could he see the sidelines? If he accidentally crossed the line first, wouldn't that be self-defeating? At this time, even old consecrator Lei and the rest stood up and walked to the side of the table together, carefully anticipating the end of this battle. Zhang Xiaohua released her divine sense and had long seen the sidelines carefully. When she was almost there, She reached out and grabbed the Chime cudgel. Cheng Shi was secretly delighted and swung his cudgel again. Zhang Xiaohua raised her hand and hit it. She pretended to be in pain, and her other hand immediately reached out and grabbed the Chime cudgel with both hands. With a little force, Cheng Shi couldn't help but rush forward. Zhang Xiaohua let go, and her hand went through the roots. Without looking back, she kicked that guy's butt. She didn't use much strength, but it was enough to make Cheng Shi take a few more steps forward. Vote for me. Come and read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. -3. Chapter 552. Cheng Shi stood still and revealed a smile of success. He had used quite a bit of strength in that strike just now, and it had hit the back of Zhang Xiaohua's hand. Looking at his expression just now, he must have been seriously injured. Both of his hands were injured. Let's see how he's going to deal with it. Thinking of this, he turned around and brandished his staff to attack again. Unfortunately, Zhang Xiaohua just stood there motionlessly with her hands tucked behind her back. Cheng Shi was surprised. The staff was already in the air. Could it be that she wasn't afraid? At this moment, old consecrator Lei shouted, "Stop! Cheng Shi of the Pill Division has already left the sidelines. Ren Xiaoyao of the Grass Division wins." What? Cheng Shi was immediately dumbfounded. That was 50 taels of gold. He should have paid Zhang Xiaohua 50 taels of gold earlier, but Wu Zhoushu had taken out a few bottles of pills and a Yuandan pill for him in order to cast a long line to catch a big fish. Originally, Wu Zhoushu didn't plan to let him participate in this competition, but Wu Zhoushu's calculations were not as good as God's plans. In the first round, he wasn't chosen. Thus, he wasn't sure which round he could truly catch Zhang Xiaohua in. Furthermore, the 10 great guardian deities unanimously objected to him competing with the people, so he gave up on participating. Of course, Cheng Shi's basic requirement for participating in the battle was that the pills worth 50 taels of gold must be taken out from his own pocket. The pill division wouldn't bear half a pill. Thinking that he had to take out a pill worth 50 taels of gold, and also didn't know why he lost the battle. This was clearly still far from the sidelines. Thus, Cheng Shi couldn't help but be distracted. The Chime cudgel in his hand didn't stop because of old consecrator Lei's shout, and directly smashed towards Zhang Xiaohua's face. Zhang Xiaohua stood with her hands crossed and looked at him quietly. Seeing that he didn't stop and that the strength of the cudgel was still sufficient, she couldn't help but frown slightly. At this moment, if she kicked it away or grabbed it with her hands, it would be effortless. But if she did so, her previous act would be wasted. Thus, Zhang Xiaohua exerted force on her feet and retreated a few steps. She accidentally tripped over her right foot and fell to the ground. Cheng Shi's Chime cudgel also smashed onto the ground, injuring a patch of flowers and grass. Cheng Shi pitifully looked at Wu Zhoushu, who had a look of disappointment on his face, as well as the many Pill Division disciples who had looks of pity on their faces. He felt as if he had been wronged. Just as he was about to ask what was going on, he saw Wu Zhoushu point at his feet, indicating for him to look carefully. Thus, Cheng Shi shut his mouth and looked left and right carefully. It didn't matter if he looked closely, but his lungs were about to explode from anger. Not far in front of him was a thin line. Wasn't that the sidelines of the battle arena? And the Grass Division disciples who were supposed to be sitting beside the thin line were now sitting far behind him. Their faces were solemn and extremely upright, but their eyes couldn't help but reveal a mocking smile. "This you?" Cheng Shi looked at his feet and pointed at Zhang Xiaohua. He really didn't know what to say. Zhang Xiaohua clasped his hands and said, "Senior Brother Cheng's martial arts are really powerful. This Chime staff technique is abnormally wondrous. I really am not a match for it, so I had to resort to trickery. I hope Senior Brother Cheng can understand. Right, what is the name of this staff technique? I have never seen it before. Furthermore, Senior Brother Cheng's strength is boundless. When you use this staff technique, it is as if the Vajra of the 9 heavens has descended to the mortal world. It makes me feel as if I can't resist it." Zhang Xiaohua spoke as he walked. Cheng Shi was elated. "See, it's not that my martial arts are not good enough. People make mistakes, horses stumble too. It's just that this fellow's evil plan succeeded this time. I'll deal with him next time." Cheng Shi's face was that of a senior brother. Junior brother Ren. A battle depends on real ability. You can survive for a while with petty tricks, but you can't survive for a lifetime. If you want to establish yourself on Tianmu Peak, you can't always be like this. You can't always be like this. Zhang Xiaohua bowed. I understand. Cheng Shi took the opportunity to ask in a low voice. Then, is the wager for the battle? Zhang Xiaohua said seriously. Senior brother Cheng, weren't you just lecturing me not to be sneaky? Since that's the case, we can't break the rules of the battle. As for the wager, I'll keep it for you. When you challenge me next time, I'll give it back to you. How about that? Won't senior brother Cheng have a clear conscience if you use your own ability to win it back? When Cheng Shi heard that, he wished he could slap his own mouth. But thinking that he would be able to win it back next time, he could accept it in his heart. He pointed at Zhang Xiaohua and said, You said it yourself. In a few days, I'll name you and challenge you. You must accept the challenge. Zhang Xiaohua's heart was already blooming with joy, but he still panicked and said, All right, senior brother Cheng, don't worry. I'll definitely use my true ability, but you must show mercy. Cheng Shi snorted and waved his hand. He walked down, as if the winner of this battle was him. Zhang Xiaohua smiled as he watched Cheng Shi leave the arena. He walked towards the Grass Division disciples. At this time, Qin Fengxiao and Qiu Wei Cheng had already returned to their original seats. They heard the conversation clearly. Qin Fengxiao and Qiu Wei Cheng both smiled and secretly gave Zhang Xiaohua a thumbs up. They thought, this guy is really AI. I don't know if he's smart or cunning. He just won this battle and won the wager for this battle. Now he's eyeing the wager for the next battle. Not to mention that the two of them were resting. Old Consecrator Lei opened the box again. For the 7th battle, the Grass Division had drawn another good lot. It was the second Arat Air Du Mu against the 6th Guardian Deity Jiangsu. According to the records, the martial arts of the Grass Division's Arhats were generally lower than that of the Dan Division's Arhats. But the Arhats who were ranked at the top were able to take on the Arhats ranked at the bottom. This Air Dumu against Jiangsu was more likely to win than lose. When they were drinking last night, Pill Division's Wu Dalong had asked Grass Division's Headmaster Chun several times about the order of today's battle formation. However, Qin Fengxiao had gritted his teeth and refused to say anything. When Wu Zhoushu heard about the two people who would be fighting, he almost felt indignant that the heavens were unfair. If you say that they were unlucky, then they were unlucky, but they shouldn't be so unlucky. Moreover, the stakes were unprecedentedly high. Vomit blood, vomit blood. Wu Zhoushu only had this premonition. The gambling fight between Air Dumu and Jiangsu was the same as the previous few fights. It was extremely boring. Both of them were familiar with each other. Their martial arts moves, the habits of their moves, and the degree of their internal energy were explained clearly. It was just that in order to fight over this medicinal pill that was worth 50 taels of gold, both of them took out their trump card. After fighting for nearly the time it took for 3 incense sticks to burn, the winner was finally decided. Indeed, as everyone expected, Air Dumu obtained the final victory. At this point, not only was Air Dumu overjoyed because he obtained the wager of 50 taels of gold, even Qin Fengxiao, Qiu Wei Cheng, and the other Grass Division disciples were overjoyed. Because, after the 7th battle, the Grass Division had already obtained 5 victories, while the Dan Division only had 2. The Grass Division definitely didn't need to take out a large portion of their already meager stock of pills to lose to the Dan Division. In 3 battles, if they could win 1 battle, they could obtain 20% of the 500 taels of gold. If they could win all of the battles, wouldn't that be 60%? That was a pill worth 300 taels of gold. Thinking about this, Qin Fengxiao had the urge to pinch his own thigh. On the other hand, Wu Zhoushu's mouth was full of bitterness. The Dan Division still had 5, 7, and 8 warriors who hadn't fought yet. The Grass Division had 3 Arhats and Zhang Xiaohua who hadn't fought yet. Seeing how Zhang Xiaohua had defeated Cheng Shi, the 7 and 8 warriors were most likely not her opponent. In other words, the 5 Arhats could only win 1 battle. The remaining 2 battles would be lost if there were no accidents. Calculating, the Grass Division would probably lose 200 taels of gold worth of pills. Bitter, it was even more bitter than Coptis gold thread. The eighth battle officially began with old consecrator Lei's loud voice. However, Wu Zhoushu's attention was no longer on the battle, because, in this battle, he had arranged for the 8-warrior Yu Yi to fight. He was most likely not a match for Zhang Xiaohua. But when he heard the name of the Grass Division's third Arhat, Qian Zibi, hope rose from the bottom of his heart. Of course, Yu Yi wasn't a match for Qian Zibi. This was for sure. Yu Yi's martial arts were a level lower than Qian Zibi's. Even in his previous battle records, he had been completely defeated. But the remaining 2 battles were different. Firstly, Zhang Xiaohua had to fight 2 battles in a row. Her physical strength might not be enough. Secondly, Wu Zhoushu was clear in his heart that he had sent out the 5th warrior Yi Chengliao for the 9th battle. He should be able to take down Zhang Xiaohua for sure. And after Zhang Xiaohua had fought with Yi Chengliao, she directly entered the 10th battle. Although it was the 7-warrior Qi Yuntian, Zhang Xiaohua was already exhausted. She might not necessarily lose. If it was calculated like this, the Dan division would only lose 1 battle. The 20% stake was 100 taels of gold. And it was also acceptable. He could just treat it as if he had worked hard for the past few years for nothing and returned all the pills he had won from the Grass Division. As expected, the 8th battle ended very quickly. If it was before, Qian Zibi might have allowed Yu Yi to make 2 moves. The 2 of them could be friends for a while and let the surrounding disciples enjoy themselves. But today, it involved 50 taels of gold. Qian Zibi was afraid that he would fail miserably. After just 10 rounds, he showed a flaw. He grabbed Yu Yi's acupoint and threw him to the ground. Seeing this, Qin Fengxiao grabbed his sleeve and said softly, "Little brother, our Grass Division has already won a match. We've obtained 100 taels of gold. It's already made up for all the pills we've lost to the Pill Division over the past few years. You don't have to feel burdened. You've already won a match, so if you lose another match, we'll call it even. If you lose 2 more matches, just give all the pills you've lost to the Pill Division. Of course, our Grass Division can also take out these pills on your behalf. Little brother, you don't have to worry." Afterwards, Qin Fengxiao looked at Wu Zhoushu opposite him. He wanted to say something but hesitated. He said softly, "Also, if we win too much, the Dan Division's Wu Dalong." When Zhang Xiaohua heard this, she smiled and said, "Boss arranged my last 2 battles together. I already understand what's going on. Don't worry. -3. Chapter 553. In fact, Zhang Xiaohua had already thought it through. If Qin Fengxiao wanted her to win 3 rounds, then today's battle order would definitely be the 1st, 3rd, and 5th round. In the middle of the 2 rounds, she would be able to rest a bit, adjust her zhenqi, and recover her strength. But Qin Fengxiao arranged for her to fight the 4th and 5th round together, which meant that he didn't plan on letting her win the last round. As for why Qin Fengxiao had such a plan, Zhang Xiaohua somewhat understood, but also somewhat didn't. However, right now, she was already standing in the arena, so she didn't have much time to think about this problem. In front of Zhang Xiaohua stood the Pill Division's 5th guardian deity, Yi Chengliao. The term guardian deity gave people the impression that it was a person with big shoulders and a round waist, with an appearance of infinite strength. However, Zhang Xiaohua had seen all of the 10 guardian deities, and only a few people could bear this title. For example, Cheng Shi, who was completely blasphemous to be called a guardian deity. Yi Chengliao was the one who was most worthy of this title among the 10 guardian deities. Standing in front of Zhang Xiaohua, he was almost a head taller than Zhang Xiaohua, and the muscles on his body bulged one by one. Just casually walking around the arena would make the ground tremble a bit. Seeing him, Zhang Xiaohua almost had the feeling of seeing a Misty School stone cow. When old consecrator Lei gave the order, Zhang Xiaohua bowed. "Grass Division's Ren Xiaoyao, please advise me, senior brother Yi." Seeing this, Yi Chengliao took 2 steps back for no reason. He looked at Ren Baqian suspiciously. Seeing that there was nothing unusual, he cupped his hands and said in a low and muffled voice, "Well said, junior brother Ren, let's begin." Zhang Xiaohua frowned and said, "Senior brother Yi, why did you retreat just now? This little brother hasn't attacked yet." "Hee, Dalong said that you're full of tricks, so I have to guard against you. In the previous round, I didn't see you give any gifts. This time, You suddenly did this to me, so of course I have to guard against you. OMG, Zhang Xiaohua thought to herself. My character isn't that bad, is it? Then, he explained, Senior Martial Brother Yi is right. However, a few days ago, Senior Martial Brother Chang provoked me, and I didn't want to see him. This is our first time fighting, so of course I have to be polite before resorting to force. Yi Chengliao waved his hand and said, Don't talk about etiquette and weapons, hurry up and fight. You just have to hand over the 50 taels of gold leaf to me. After saying that, he shouted, Junior Brother Ren, since you're not using a weapon, then this he will also fight you empty-handed. Be careful. After saying that, he waved his long arm, and that bowl-sized fist smashed towards Zhang Xiaohua's chest. Before the fist reached her body, the wind of the fist arrived first. Looking at the power of the fist, it was no less than Cheng Shi's Qi Mei cudgel. Zhang Xiaohua was the least afraid of fighting empty-handed, especially when it came to external martial arts. Therefore, she also took a step forward. Taking advantage of the fact that Yi Chengliao's arm had not straightened and his whole body strength had not reached 100%, she immediately clenched her right hand into a fist. With a hoo sound, she stepped forward and only used 40% of her strength. Seeing this, Yi Chengliao was overjoyed. He practiced external martial arts, and when he fought with other grass sect opponents, there were very few people who would fight him head-on. Now that Zhang Xiaohua came up and fought with him, how could he be happy? However, looking at Zhang Xiaohua's frail body, Yi Chengliao could only use 80% of his strength, so he quickly withdrew 20%. With a pung sound, the two people's fists collided. Yi Chengliao only felt his arm go slightly numb, and a huge force hit him. He couldn't help but tung back a few steps before he could steady himself. On the opposite side, Zhang Xiaohua was even worse. She retreated more than 10 steps before she managed to not fall. The two people steadied themselves and looked at each other, not easily taking a step forward. After a while, Zhang Xiaohua quickly ran in front of Yi Chengliao, jumped up, raised her left leg, and kicked towards Yi Chengliao's armpit. Although Yi Chengliao was surprised by the huge force just now, seeing Zhang Xiaohua's sorry state, he was slightly relieved. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua's kick coming over, he raised his arm and used it to block. Zhang Xiaohua's left leg kicked Yi Chengliao's arm, but she didn't use too much strength. Instead, she put her leg on Yi Chengliao's arm, twisted her waist, and her right leg immediately kicked over like lightning. Yi Chengliao didn't dare to be negligent. He raised his left hand and grabbed Zhang Xiaohua's right ankle. Zhang Xiaohua wouldn't let him have his way. Her right leg deftly changed direction in the air and kicked from another angle. Yi Chengliao also had a card up his sleeve. He pushed his left arm and blocked with his left fist, so the two people started fighting. Yi Chengliao was ranked 5th in the top 10 King Kong. His kung fu wasn't weak. In addition, Zhang Xiaohua deliberately showed weakness, so the two people's punches and kicks were very exciting. However, no matter how big of an advantage Yi Chengliao had, even if he sent Zhang Xiaohua flying, knowing that he could chase after Zhang Xiaohua and defeat her, Yi Chengliao still guarded the surrounding few feet and didn't move forward. After a few times, Zhang Xiaohua understood in her heart that she had lured Yi Chengliao into a trap. This guy must have received Wu Dalong's orders. No matter how much she pretended, he wouldn't chase after her and let her kick him out of the line. Since it was like this, Zhang Xiaohua was a little worried. If it was to say that defeating this Yi Chengliao wasn't a difficult thing, but if she could defeat him very accidentally and make him unable to see through her true martial arts, then it would be a very troublesome thing. However, if she wanted to lose to Yi Chengliao and give away the 50 taels of gold pill, then it would be better to directly defeat Yi Chengliao. The two people exchanged punches and kicks for the time it took to eat a meal. Even when the sun was already high up in the sky, Yi Chengliao still stood in the distance and didn't move much. Naturally, no one could see who won or lost. But even so, the surrounding disciples were dumbfounded by what they saw. Last time when Zhang Xiaohua defeated Cheng Shi, to be honest, it was a bit of an unfair victory. She only relied on tricks and didn't have any real ability. Therefore, everyone was like Chen Fengxiao's prediction. They lowered their attention on Zhang Xiaohua again and again, thinking that there was nothing special about Zhang Xiaohua's martial arts. There were even some disciples who didn't know their place and had thoughts that they shouldn't have in their minds. Of course, there were even more disciples who placed their bets on the Dan division. They originally thought that the Dan division's 5 taels of gold would easily end the bet. But after fighting for almost half a day, it was actually a situation of neither winning nor losing. This frail grass division youth actually didn't fall behind by half a point. Yi Jinggang is simple and honest. Maybe he didn't kill him and gave Ren Xiaoyao some face? Maybe Yi Jinggang wants to exhaust Ren Xiaoyao's strength. When he runs out of strength, then wouldn't he be casually thrown out of the line? The people outside the line kept guessing. But just when everyone was guessing when Yi Chengliao would exert his strength and defeat Zhang Xiaohua, the situation on the field changed again. They saw Zhang Xiaohua once again leaping high into the air, her legs interlocking with Yi Chengliao's face. Yi Chengliao seemed to have already seen through Zhang Xiaohua's moves and wasn't nervous at all. He clenched his fists and punched out continuously, turning all of Zhang Xiaohua's attacks into nothingness. And when Zhang Xiaohua landed on the ground, it was as if she had stepped on something. Zhang Xiaohua's body was like an arrow leaving the bowstring, pouncing towards Yi Chengliao. And because Zhang Xiaohua didn't have a good grasp of her balance, her 2 hands were randomly grabbing at the air. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua baring her fangs and brandishing her claws, Yi Chengliao was stunned. Just when he was about to dodge, Zhang Xiaohua's 2 arms were already in front of him, grabbing at the place where his 2 arms were. Yi Chengliao didn't dare to be slow, afraid that Zhang Xiaohua had a trick up her sleeves. He also raised his arms to block Zhang Xiaohua. In a flash, for arms crossed together, Zhang Xiaohua very casually pushed Yi Chengliao's arms to the left and right, as if she was just randomly bumping into something. Could it be that this junior brother really fell down? At this time, Yi Chengliao naturally thought. Unfortunately, this was the only thought Yi Chengliao had before he woke up. He saw Zhang Xiaohua push Yi Chengliao's 2 arms apart, and her entire body was already in Yi Chengliao's embrace. Her head that was flying in front, before Yi Chengliao could react, hit his chest's Shanzhong point. Yi Chengliao couldn't catch his breath and fainted on the spot. And the initiator of this, Zhang Xiaohua, seemed to be dazed from the impact. Like Yi Chengliao, she fainted and fell straight to the ground. In an instant, the entire place was dead silent. Even the sound of breathing stopped. Everyone stared at the scene with their mouths agape. Then, they looked at each other, not knowing what had happened. It wouldn't be right if they didn't know what had happened. They probably didn't know why such a coincidental thing had happened. In the past 10 years of Tianmu Peak, such an incident had never happened before. Then, with a wong sound, thousands of flies rushed over at the same time. All the disciples were whispering to each other and discussing. The 5 consecrators, pill departments Wu Zhouxiu, the 9 Vidras, Qin Feng Xiao, Qiu Wei Cheng, and the 6 arhats all stood up with a zing sound. They all looked at the scene with complicated expressions. Knocking out the opponent was naturally the winner. But when 2 people fainted at the same time, who was the winner and who was the loser? This was really hard to say. When the rules were set, they never thought that such a situation would happen. Even after a few revisions, there were no new rules. However, they didn't dare to casually enter the arena. Disciples who weren't part of the battle were prohibited from entering the arena. If they entered the arena, they would be judged as the loser. And this battle involved 50 taels of gold, so no one dared to enter the arena. Therefore, just like this, after the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Wu Zhouxiu was the first to become impatient. He walked towards Consecrator Lei. In his opinion, since both of them had fainted together, it would be a draw. Anyway, Zhang Xiaohua was already injured. Although it was the 7 Vajras who entered the arena, Qi Yuntian should be able to take down Zhang Xiaohua. In this way, their pill department would only lose 20% of 100 taels of gold. But just as he took a step, he heard an earth-shattering cry from the grass department. When he looked up, he saw Zhang Xiaohua, who was lying there motionless, sitting up from the ground. She rubbed her head and looked at everything around her in confusion. Please vote for me. Recommend me. -3. Chapter 554. Zhang Xiaohua sat up from the ground, very puzzled as he looked around, then rubbed his head, as if it hurts. Then, he stood up, looked into the distance, and did something that no one on Tianmu Peak would have imagined. This guy walked to the side of Yi Chengliao, who fainted on the ground, lifted one of his legs from the ground, and like pulling a dead pig, dragged him to the side of the field. In an instant, the whole field returned to dead silence. Then, when everyone understood what Zhang Xiaohua meant, a burst of laughter resounded. The people of the grass division all laughed, constantly applauding. It seems that this guy also doesn't know whether he lost or won. Therefore, for the sake of insurance, it's better to drag him to the side of the line and see what the 5 judges decide. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua dragging Yi Chengliao out while panting, Wu Zhoushu sighed and stopped in his tracks. Originally, the two of them had fainted at the same time. After all, there was no such rule in the current rules, and there was no such precedent before. He went to the 5 consecrators, and for the sake of 100 taels of gold, he did not care about his face. It was also appropriate to make a draw, but he didn't expect that Zhang Xiaohua would wake up first. Oh, of course, even if he woke up, he might be able to make it a draw. However, he, like all the other disciples, did not expect that Zhang Xiaohua would do such a thing. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua's tired appearance, Wu Zhoushu's heart was bleeding. Fine. Why do I have to go to the elders? It doesn't matter who fainted first. As long as they leave the side of the line, they lose. This guy doesn't know other things, but he remembers this rule very clearly. Sigh. How is this dragging a dead pig? It's simply dragging gold home. The disciples of the pill division opposite the grass division could not stand it, and also shouted loudly. What's the reason? Isn't it just to wake up the fainted Yi Chengliao? Unfortunately, Zhang Xiaohua sealed his acupoints. How can he wake up by himself? It seemed extremely impossible. Zhang Xiaohua pretended to be exhausted. She took a few steps to rest, and then took a few more steps to rest again. She thought to herself, this way, I can finally act like it. I, Xiaoxia, am also a wise and powerful man. How can I? Ahem, for 50 taels of gold, I can do some acting for others. It's possible. Seeing that they were getting closer and closer to the sidelines, Qin Fengxiao, who didn't know whether to laugh or cry, actually still had some confidence that Zhang Xiaohua could defeat Yi Chengliao, but he also never thought that Zhang Xiaohua would end up like this. Looking at Yi Chengliao behind Zhang Xiaohua with his eyes tightly closed, Qin Fengxiao couldn't help but think, if Yi Chengliao, known as one of the 5 guardian deities, woke up now, how would he resist? He wondered how junior brother Ren would deal with it. We're already at the border. If Yi Chengliao wakes up and sees himself outside the border, how will he react? No matter how Qin Fengxiao thought, he immediately saw Yi Chengliao's expression. Zhang Xiaohua had already dragged Yi Chengliao to the side of the border. She put down Yi Chengliao's legs, walked to the other side of Yi Chengliao's body, and used her strength to flip him over bit by bit. After a few more rolls, Yi Chengliao's body just happened to cross the border. And at the same time that Zhang Xiaohua flipped him over, a wave of Jin Qi was sent over, unsealing Yi Chengliao's sealed acupoints. Then, as if nothing had happened, she clapped her hands and turned back to the field. Old consecrator Lei and the other 4 judges also smiled bitterly as they watched Zhang Xiaohua like a hard-working ant, slowly pushing Yi Chengliao out of the field. When Yi Chengliao's body was out of the border, they immediately shouted at the top of their lungs, Tianmu Peak's 9th battle, Grass Division's Ren Xiaoyao wins. Just as this voice landed, Yi Chengliao, who was outside the border, also opened his eyes. Similarly, he looked around in confusion. When he heard old consecrator Lei's announcement, his expression changed greatly. He hurriedly looked at the ground, and an expression of shock appeared on his face. His mouth was wide open, and he used his finger to point at Zhang Xiaohua, who had just walked far away. Then, he saw a long trail of dragging on the field. Thus, he didn't say anything else, and just stood there dumbly. After a while, Yi Chengliao slapped his head hard, and said regretfully, Why didn't I wake up a little earlier? If I woke up a little earlier, it would be enough to kick this guy out of the border. Sigh. That's right. Why did he wake up early? Wu Zhoushu thought so, and so did everyone in the Dan division. At this time, old consecrator Lei shouted again, Tianmu Peak's 10th battle is now ready to begin. Due to the fact that Grass Division's Ren Xiaoyao has gone up consecutively, according to the rules, the last disciple of the Dan division to go up is Qi Yuntian. Therefore, the 2 divisions' disciples, please place your bets now. Zhang Xiaohua stood in the field, and when she heard Consecrator Lei asking her to rest, she secretly shrugged and laughed secretly. Is there a need? I don't think it's necessary, but since the rules of the battle are so humane, then I should rest for a while. Zhang Xiaohua walked back to the grass division. From afar, Qin Fengxiao and Qiu Weicheng gave her a thumbs up. Qin Fengxiao laughed and said, "Little brother, I don't know how to praise you. It's really..." Qiu Weicheng, who was beside him, laughed. "It's really wise, and your luck is through the roof." Zhang Xiaohua shrugged again and said, "It's not wise, but my luck is through the roof." She then turned to look at the field and said, "I don't know who is so inconsiderate and doesn't care about our Tianmu Peak's environment. He actually threw peels and confetti at such an important place. Hee, but if it wasn't for these peels, I wouldn't have been able to beat the 5th-ranked King Kong so easily." Beat the field? Qin Fengxiao couldn't help but laugh and said, "You drag the field, okay?" Indeed, but this Yicheng Liao is really too heavy, heavier than half a piece of pork. Dragging him down is really difficult. Oh, little brother has dragged pork before? That's right, little brother's family is poor, and I have a relative who sells pork. When little brother was young, little brother worked for that relative. This business of dragging pork is very common. Ha ha ha, no wonder little brother's posture is so familiar. It's because you've already practiced before. Zhang Xiaohua only had one relative, Butcher Lu, who sold meat. However, he had never met Zhang Xiaohua, and he had worked at Butcher Lu's house for a day. Who the hell knew who this relative of his was? While chatting, Zhang Xiaohua inadvertently glanced at the pill division opposite him. It was abnormally lively there. When he took a closer look, he realized that they were all calling for disciples to place their bets. When he looked behind him, the grass division disciples also had strange expressions on their faces. They were peeking at him while secretly calling for bets. It was as if they were doing something that was condemned by their conscience. Could it be? Zhang Xiaohua seemed to understand. She pulled on Qin Fengxiao's sleeve and whispered, "Headmaster Qin, can I place my own bets?" "You're placing your own bets?" Qin Fengxiao frowned and naturally looked back. Those disciples who were placing their bets immediately retracted their hands and looked around in all seriousness, as if the matter of placing their bets had nothing to do with them. Qin Fengxiao obviously knew what they were thinking. He turned back and smiled. "Little brother, are you itching to place your bets after seeing others place their bets? Or did you see something wrong with our grass division disciples?" Zhang Xiaohua smiled. "The pill division disciples are very enthusiastic, but our disciples are all sneaky. Of course I know they're betting on the pill division." Qin Fengxiao nodded and smiled. "That's right. Our bet is fair. The pill division and grass division are all disciples of the pill expanding hall. It's their freedom to place their bets. You don't have to take it to heart." "Why would I blame them?" Zhang Xiaohua asked curiously. "I'm just asking if I can bet on this fight." "This?" Qin Fengxiao thought for a while and said, "In order to maintain fairness and prevent disciples from cheating, the rules of Tianmu Peak prohibit disciples from placing bets. But what?" Zhang Xiaohua saw Qin Fengxiao's hesitation and could not help asking. "However, since little brother wants to participate, I'll place a bet on little brother's behalf. However, little brother, there are many people who bet on you losing this round. Even if you bet on yourself losing, the amount of pills you'll get in the end will be extremely small." Zhang Xiaohua waved her hands. "When did I say I'd bet on myself losing? What?" Qin Fengxiao was stunned. "You want to bet on yourself winning?" Then he persuaded, "Little brother, this is not the time to be swayed by emotions. Even if you want to regain your face, you don't have to go against all the disciples of Tianmu Peak. And oh, I forgot. You've won enough today. Giving some to everyone can be considered a good deed. All right, little brother, I'll place a bet for you. If you lose, it's on me. If you win, it's on you. What do you think?" "Don't? Headchin, if that's the case, what kind of bet is this?" "It's your good deed. Win or lose, it's all on me." All right, I'll listen to you." Qin Fengxiao smiled. "Then how many bottles of pills should I place? Or a few dozen taels of gold?" Zhang Xiaohua smiled and stretched out one finger. "1 bottle? 10 taels of gold?" Qin Fengxiao guessed. Zhang Xiaohua shook her head. "Don't. Won't that be too much? The next, blood replenishing pill. Ah? Chen Fengxiao almost fell over. He couldn't believe it and asked, just one blood replenishing pill? Yes. Anyway, they're all betting on the pill department to win. I'm only using one blood replenishing pill. If I win, won't all their bets be mine? And if I lose, this blood replenishing pill will be theirs to divide among themselves. This isn't too good. Chen Fengxiao was speechless. He thought to himself, you've won so much gold. Even if you lose, it's still a huge profit. I thought you wanted to show your grace to the disciples. But I didn't expect you to be so opportunistic. Chen Fengxiao only said, one pill can also be placed as a bet. But this doesn't seem to match little brother's status. Just based on the fact that little brother defeated Wu Yigong, you'll be a famous person in Tianmu Peak in the future. So it's like this. Zhang Xiaohua nodded thoughtfully. She gritted her teeth and said, Then let's place a bet of 2 blood replenishing pills. -3. Chapter 555. In an instant, Chen Fengxiao, the #1 figure of Tianmu Peak, almost fainted. I have already told you clearly that these few pills are not worthy of your status. You still clenched your teeth. I thought you would take out at least 10 taels of gold. In the end, sigh, forget it. Just pretend that I don't know you. But betting on those few pills did not seem like something a headmaster like him could do. Hence, he raised his head to look. Of course, Qiu Weicheng, who had just come over to talk to Zhang Xiaohua, was also looking around like the other disciples of the grass division. He looked like he did not know anything and did not want to disturb him. Chen Fengxiao called out with a smile, Junior Qiu, Junior Qiu? Qiu Weicheng seemed to have just woken up from a dream. With a helpless expression, he turned around and asked, Headmaster Chen, what's the matter? Junior brother Qiu, don't play dumb. Go, in your name. According to little brother's wishes, bet 2 blood replenishing pills on little brother's victory. Headmaster Chen, this isn't appropriate. No matter what, I'm still your right-hand man. If you use such a wager, not only will you lose face for me, but you will also lose face for the headmaster. Chen Fengxiao waved his hand and said, I don't care. I will leave this matter to you. Do as you see fit. Then, he pointed at Zhang Xiaohua and said, Our grass division brothers have sacrificed their lives for us. We cannot let him have any worries. You must settle this matter properly. Don't you think so, little brother? Zhang Xiaohua laughed and said to Qiu Weicheng, Sorry to trouble you, Senior Qiu. Little brother's family background is weak. I don't dare to mess around, hee. Qiu Weicheng's face was full of helplessness. Just as he was about to call the disciples to place their bets, his eyes suddenly lit up and he walked towards the side of the crowd. Of course, there was an excited Bai Huan sitting there. She was holding something in her hand and looked like she was about to place her bet. Seeing Qiu Weicheng walk over, Bai Huan quickly stood up to greet him. Qiu Weicheng whispered into Bai Huan's ear. Bai Huan looked unhappy and pulled Qiu Weicheng back. She pointed at the elixirs in her hand and then at the pill department. She looked a little ashamed. At this moment, Qiu Weicheng's face was full of righteousness. He pointed at Bai Huan's nose and scolded her, as if he expected better from her. Bai Huan's face was full of shame. She had no choice but to stretch out her hand. Seeing Bai Huan stretch out her hand, Qiu Weicheng was obviously stunned. He looked at Zhang Xiaohua, who was preparing in the distance. After thinking for a while, he took out a jade bottle from his arms, poured out 2 elixirs, and handed them to Bai Huan. He then turned around and walked back to Chen Fengxiao's side. When Chen Feng saw Qiu Weicheng return, he pretended not to see him. Zhang Xiaohua, on the other hand, was curious and asked softly, Senior Bai doesn't look too happy. Could it be that he's worried about his own reputation? Qiu Weicheng thought to himself, You know that your reputation is not good. Why did you ask us to help you place such a small bet? However, he still smiled warmly and said, Junior brother Ren, don't think too much. Junior Bai doesn't care about his reputation. It's just that, looking at Zhang Xiaohua, he coughed twice and said, It's just that he placed his bet on Qi Yuntian of the pill department. According to the rules, one person cannot bet on 2 parties at the same time. Therefore, he probably wants others to bet on him. Zhang Xiaohua was very puzzled. Senior Qiu, I heard that there is something I don't understand. Since everyone placed their bets on Chi Yun-tian of the pill department, and no one placed their bets on me, how will they gain anything? Won't this bet be for nothing? Well, even though they will definitely win this bet, the most important thing is to participate. It's not bad to win once. Furthermore, in our gambling fight rules, to encourage betting, we will record the number of wins. If the number of wins increases, there will be a certain amount of preferential treatment. There are many specific details. In the future, Brother Rin will naturally know about it. So that's how it is. No wonder Senior Brother Chiu didn't bet on me, Zhang Xiaohua muttered thoughtfully. Hearing this, Chiu Wei-cheng's face immediately turned red. Zhang Xiaohua seemed to feel that what she said was wrong and quickly apologized. Senior Chiu, don't think too much. If you only bet on me, who will definitely lose, I would find it strange. Just now, I just said it casually. I didn't mean to blame you at all. If Senior Chiu goes up next time, I won't bet on you. Gosh, Chiu Wei-cheng's face turned even redder. He thought to himself, anyway, I won't have the chance to go up. Aren't your words useless? Furthermore, I haven't even gone up and you're already cursing me to lose. Are you doing this on purpose? However, he said, long live understanding, long live understanding. At this moment, old consecrator Lei shouted from afar, the auspicious time has arrived. New cough cough, Grass Division Rin Xiaoyao, Pill Division Chi Yun-tian, please enter. Seeing the two of them walk slowly into the arena, old consecrator Lei then sat down and drank a mouthful of tea. He thought to himself, these days are not as good as when I was young as the master of ceremonies. How I miss the past. Those beautiful times. Leaving aside old consecrator Lei's nostalgia, Zhang Xiaohua and Chi Yun-tian walked into the arena together. Zhang Xiaohua stopped and looked at Chi Yun-tian. Chi Yun-tian didn't stop, but walked a dozen steps and stopped. Then, he lowered his head and looked around. He even bent down to pick up some leaves and trash on the ground and threw them far away. Then, he turned around to face Zhang Xiaohua. Looking at this middle-aged man who was as tall and thin as her, Zhang Xiaohua didn't understand. She could only follow her right hand and walk a dozen steps. She cupped her hands and said, I am Ren Xiaoyao from the Grass Division. Greetings to Senior Chiu from the Pill Division. Chi Yun-tian's face was full of vigilance. He cupped his hands and said, Junior Brother Rin, you have great skills and a good plan. As your senior brother, I really admire you. Zhang Xiaohua looked at the place where they were just now. There didn't seem to be any scraps of fruit paper. She asked, why didn't Senior Brother Chi stand there just now? Chi Yun-tian looked around and said in a low voice, Junior Brother Rin is thinking too much. This is the center of the arena. If I stood there, wouldn't I be disrespecting the battle with Junior Brother Rin? Ha 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 ha. Zhang Xiaohua understood and was secretly happy. Then, Zhang Xiaohua got into a fighting stance and said, if that's the case, then please give me some pointers, Senior Brother Chi. Then, she didn't hold back and raised her fist. Chi Yun-tian didn't dare to be negligent, and also came forward. So, the two of them stood together. But after the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, Zhang Xiaohua felt that something was wrong. Although Chi Yuntian's martial arts were a bit better than Cheng Shi's, but compared to Yicheng Liao's, he was still lacking. She should have no problem defeating him, but this guy was guarding the center of the arena. No matter how much she tried to lure him, no matter how many openings Zhang Xiaohua revealed, he would only chase after her a few steps and then immediately return to his original position. When Zhang Xiaohua attacked, he would only retreat a few steps. Looking far away, he would immediately use his qinggong to dodge around Zhang Xiaohua and return to his original position. He seemed to have decided, I won't leave the center of the arena. Let's see how you will lure me out. A moment ago, when Chi Yun-tian came up, he had already cleaned up the surrounding trash. It would be difficult to find even a scrap of paper. This eliminated the possibility of Zhang Xiaohua accidentally bumping into him. Seeing this, Zhang Xiaohua sighed in her heart. This is going to be a very difficult battle. This difficult wasn't because of the opponent's martial arts, but because of how to defeat him without leaving any traces. AI. Looking at Chi Yuntian's cautious appearance, it was really difficult. Thus, the two of them were in a deadlock for a while. AI. That's because Zhang Xiaohua didn't have a good method, so it could only be a draw. While Zhang Xiaohua was thinking, another incense stick's worth of time passed. Zhang Xiaohua threw a punch at Qi Yuntian, using only 20% of his strength. If it was a moment ago, Qi Yuntian would have used his internal qi to block, but this time, Qi Yuntian dodged to the side and used his Qi Yuntian hand to cut Zhang Xiaohua's pulse. Zhang Xiaohua's left palm hit Qi Yuntian, but Qi Yuntian immediately retracted his attack. His body flashed. He didn't want to meet Zhang Xiaohua's attack head-on. Instead, he moved behind Zhang Xiaohua and raised his leg to attack his back. Zhang Xiaohua didn't turn around, but raised her leg to kick Qi Yuntian's leg. When Qi Yuntian saw this, he didn't meet the kick head-on. Instead, he flipped his body and changed direction in midair. He reached out to grab the back of Zhang Xiaohua's neck. This wonderful movement technique caused everyone to cheer. Seeing that Qi Yuntian didn't meet her attack, Zhang Xiaohua's eyes lit up. She had a plan. This Qi Yuntian's martial arts were about the same as Cheng Shi's, but his martial arts were ranked 7th. This was inseparable from his outstanding movement technique. Of course, this movement technique wasn't worth mentioning in Zhang Xiaohua's eyes. He was avoiding the main force and attacking the weak points. He probably knew that he couldn't defeat Zhang Xiaohua with his own moves, or that it would be very difficult to defeat her. Therefore, he chose to use his movement technique to exhaust Zhang Xiaohua's physical strength and internal energy. He wanted to achieve a stable and assured victory over Zhang Xiaohua. To Zhang Xiaohua, who had just fought 2 battles, this was a very appropriate and very wise strategy. Everyone outside the arena, including the 5 consecrators, Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxiu, all had the same idea. However, the person he met was Zhang Xiaohua, and not anyone else. These 2 gambling matches were just a show for this fellow, and he did not use up any of his strength or true qi at all. How could he be afraid of such a battle of attrition? However, it was also because of Qi Yuntian's change in tactics that Zhang Xiaohua found a breakthrough. And, didn't you want to fight a battle of attrition? Then let's fight. This brother also has the same plan. Let's see who can outlast the other. Thus, Zhang Xiaohua slowly began to fight with Qi Yuntian. Of course, she couldn't fight with him so leisurely. So, Zhang Xiaohua was also panting. Her movements were sluggish, and her footsteps were getting heavier. On the other hand, Qi Yuntian seemed to realize that his strategy was correct. His body became lighter and lighter like a butterfly in spring. He surrounded Zhang Xiaohua. This Xiaohua. Fly, 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 fly nonstop. Unfortunately, after flying for a long time, Zhang Xiaohua was still panting. Qi Yuntian's body couldn't be as light as before and slowly slowed down. Nonsense. This movement technique also required physical strength and internal energy. Please vote monthly. Recommend vote. -3. Chapter 556. At this moment, Zhang Xiaohua couldn't help but hesitate. Before entering the arena, Chen Fengxiao had already said a lot of things. His words were vague and pointed out, "Little brother, I arranged for you to be in the last 2 matches because I don't want you to win. Haha, don't completely win. Give the pill department some face." Pill department's face? Zhang Xiaohua couldn't help but sneer. This face was given by Chen Fengxiao from the grass department, not by him. But compared to 50 taels of gold, was the pill department's face more important? It didn't seem to be important. But what about Chen Fengxiao's face? Zhang Xiaohua was a little conflicted. Should he win or not? Well, it depended on whether Chen Fengxiao's face or 50 taels of gold. Who was more important? It was as if he had returned to the Misty Peak when he participated in the 2nd round of the martial arts exhibition. But needless to say, the difference between the current Zhang Xiaohua and the previous Zhang Xiaohua was like clouds and mud. Even Qi Yuntian, in terms of Qinggong, might not be able to compete with that young disciple of the Misty School who had passed the first stage of the Misty School. That young disciple was a real disciple of the Misty School. This Qi Yuntian was just a disciple of the pill department of the pill expanding hall. He didn't even have the qualifications to be an outer disciple. However, Qi Yuntian, who had become a butterfly, didn't have the self-awareness. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua constantly gasping for breath, he thought that if he put in more effort, he would be able to defeat him. So he tried his best again and again. Unfortunately, Zhang Xiaohua was like a wildflower in the wind and rain. He swayed left and right, but did not fall. Until Qi Yuntian suddenly realized that his already weak internal energy had dried up. Not to mention the fact that he couldn't use Qinggong. He didn't even have the strength to stand and move his fists and legs. On the other hand, Zhang Xiaohua was still gasping for breath, just like before. Suddenly, a chill rose from the bottom of Qi Yuntian's heart. Could it be that this Zhang Xiaohua was a hidden master? Was he trying to lure him into a trap by putting on such a pathetic appearance? But then he thought again, what's the benefit of baiting me? If he's an expert, he can just knock me down directly. Either way, the outcome of the battle will be 50 gold taels worth of medicinal pills. Io, my medicinal pills. How many years of savings have I accumulated? The more he thought about it, the less strength he had left his body. After the time it took to eat a meal, Qi Yuntian sat down on the ground. He raised his hands and weakly shouted, I can't take it anymore. I admit defeat. After he said that, he lay on the ground like a dead pig, unable to move. And when Zhang Xiaohua heard this, she also immediately fell to the ground, motionless. She was actually exhausted. When Qi Yuntian admitted defeat, the entire Tianmu Peak was silent. It was even quieter than when Zhang Xiaohua knocked Yi Chengliao unconscious. Many people covered their mouths in disbelief, their eyes flashing with disbelief. That's right, they had the same thought as Qi Yuntian. This guy had already fought 2 rounds. Even if it was a battle of attrition, he would still be exhausted to death. But this Zhang Xiaohua was like a cockroach. From beginning to end, she was moaning. But in the end, she was still standing strong. Even if she fell to the ground, she would fall behind Qi Yuntian. Shady, it was unknown which disciple hysterically shouted out this slogan. Sure enough, he was not the only smart one. All the disciples loudly shouted, cheating, cheating, investigate thoroughly, investigate thoroughly. Seeing this, Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhoushu turned pale with fright. That's right, according to normal logic, the winner of this last round would definitely be Qi Yuntian. But what if Qi Yuntian had thrown the match? What if he had let people bet on Zhang Xiaohua's victory? Wouldn't he be able to win against everyone on Tianmu Peak? Then the benefits he would receive would be enough to make up for the 50 taels of gold he had lost against Zhang Xiaohua. Moreover, these 50 taels of gold pills were not from his own pocket. He had a secret agreement with Wu Zhoushu. Thinking of these agreements, and looking at the agitated crowd, Wu Zhoushu's expression was extremely ugly. At this moment, old consecrator Lei stood up with a sorrowful expression. He weakly announced, the 10th battle, Ren Xiaoyao of the Grass Tribe wins. Then, looking at the other 4 consecrators beside him, he said, this Tianmu Peak gambling competition ends now. Based on the current score, the Grass Tribe has won with 8 wins and 2 losses. Furthermore, they have received 60% of the 300 taels of gold from the Pill Tribe. Pill Tribe's Wu Dalong will promptly hand over this wager to head leader Chen of the Grass Tribe. As for the winners and losers of each battle, they must also promptly hand over their 50 taels of gold or pills of equivalent value to the winner. If they do not hand it over within 3 days, the winner will be handed over to us for judgment. If they do not hand over their winnings, they will be given a double punishment. After saying this, he shouted again, disciples, please be patient. Our judgment will personally check the record of the last bet with Pill Tribe's Wu Dalong and head leader Chen of the Grass Tribe. If any disciple deliberately lost to the opponent, we will severely punish them. All right, the disciples all cheered. They all sat down and waited quietly. It seemed that they would definitely not leave today without a thorough investigation. Qi Yuntian, who was paralyzed in the arena, had already understood what was going on. He was filled with anger. Do I have to go this far? In order to win the 50 taels of gold, I begged Wu Dalong yesterday morning and borrowed quite a bit. If I could win, how could I lose to the opponent? That was 50 taels of gold. I'm not a fool. Furthermore, even if I cheated, how much more could it be than 50 taels of gold? Sigh. Zhang Xiaohua, who had closed her eyes and pretended to be exhausted, was overjoyed. She would soon know the results of her victory. Thinking back, she was still worried about how to find someone to cash out their winnings. afraid that someone would go back on their word. This was great. Everything was announced to the public. Let's see who would dare to go back on their word. The speed of sorting out the records was very fast. Of course, with thousands of pairs of eyes watching, who would dare to be slow? But the result? It was really out of everyone's expectations. Out of the thousands of disciples from the Pill tribe and Grass tribe, there was only one person who bet on Zhang Xiaohua's victory. That was, of course, Bai Huan from the Grass tribe. Bai Huan? The consecrator who had once asked Bai Huan to lead the way to Zhang Xiaohua had a deep impression of him. He asked, Headchin, this Bai Huan wouldn't be carrying Qi Yuntian's bet, right? It seemed that the consecrators were well aware of the little tricks of the disciples below. Wu Zhoushu also looked at Chen Fengxiao with a face full of doubts. Chen Fengxiao shook his head and said, It seems that we have wrong Qi Yunia. This Bai Huan definitely didn't bet on Qi Yuntian's behalf, because he bet on Ren Xiaoyao's behalf. Furthermore, I also know that this was a bet for 2 blood-replenishing pills, and it was Qiu Weicheng's pills. Sure enough, when old consecrator Lei looked at the back, there were indeed 2 blood-replenishing pills written at the back. This was something that Chen Fengxiao didn't see. Since he knew about it, it must be true. At the same time, everyone who heard this felt a sense of absurdity. Using 2 blood-replenishing pills to win against thousands of people in the field, even if it was 2 blood-replenishing pills per person, such a small bet was still 2,000 pills. It was much more than 50 taels of gold. Hiss! Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhoushu both sucked in a breath of cold air as if they had a toothache. They were incomparably regretful. If I also bet a little, wouldn't I have a share of these 2,000 pills? If I bet 10 taels of gold, these 2 blood-replenishing pills can be ignored. Wouldn't the 2,000 pills all be mine? But this Ren Xiaoyao was obviously going to lose. How could I have known that in the end? He would actually win. Since the result was out, it naturally had to be announced. However, no one believed this result. In the end, they could only let the various people send their own representatives up to witness it with their own eyes. Chen Fengxiao and Wu Zhoushu also patted their chests solemnly, assuring that there was no problem with this record. Only then did they manage to suppress the crowd's emotions. That's right, since the beginning of the gambling matches on Tianmu Peak, who knew how many matches there had been? There had also been gambling matches with great disparities in strength, but none of them had been as coincidental as today. Everyone had bet on Qi Yuntian, who was sure to win, and only Zhang Xiaohua had bet on herself. Oh no, only Bai Huan had bet on the Grass Division disciple. Well, after the disciples of the Pill Division and the Grass Division knew the result, those who didn't know Bai Huan secretly tried to find out who was called Bai Huan. Their tone was extremely unfriendly, and those who knew Bai Huan shot murderous glances at Bai Huan. In an instant, Bai Huan's brilliance immediately overshadowed the victorious Zhang Xiaohua. Seeing the strange looks from the crowd, Bai Huan felt uncomfortable. I'm innocent. I bet on the Pill Division myself. This bet was placed on someone else's behalf. But now, even if he was given 10 more guts, would he dare to say that it was Headmaster Chen's instructions? Not to mention that this would immediately make Zhang Xiaohua the target of public criticism. Moreover, what if Headmaster Chen used Zhang Xiaohua's name to win? Bai Huan shuddered. It was as if he could see himself being beaten and killed on a moonless and windy night. At this time, Qi Yuntian had just finished resting and recovered a bit of strength. Seeing that his grievances had been cleared, there was no reason for him to stay on the ground. He got up and walked in front of Zhang Xiaohua. Junior brother Ren, congratulations on winning the last round. Zhang Xiaohua was lying on the ground, still looking like he was about to die. He stretched out his hands lazily and said, Senior brother Qi, thank you for letting me win. Actually, I didn't expect to win in the end. I just thought that if I let out a breath, the 50 taels of gold would be given to someone else. I didn't dare to vent my anger. I didn't expect senior brother Qi to be the first. Seeing that Zhang Xiaohua didn't have any strength and hearing him mention the 50 taels of gold, Qi Yuntian couldn't help but want to go up and kick him. You're already like this when you came up, and you're still like this now. Are you done yet? Qi Yuntian suppressed his anger, cupped his hands, and walked away. Seeing that there was no need to pretend, Zhang Xiaohua stood up shakily. At this time, Chen Fengxiao came over and helped Zhang Xiaohua up. He smiled and said, "Little brother is really talented. Do you want to know how much you won in the last round?" Zhang Xiaohua's eyes lit up and he asked, "It's all because of Headmaster Chen's guidance. I have to thank Tuodin Hall, Tianmu Peak, and the Grass Sect. Well, I also have to thank Chuanxiang School for giving me this opportunity." -3. Chapter 557. Hearing Zhang Xiaohua's words, Chen Fengxiao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Little brother, don't give me this empty speech. It's meaningless. Perhaps only the senior elders of our fragrance cult like this kind of speech. Oh, by the way, you should thank Bai Huan first. Look, now he has successfully transferred the anger of the disciples to him. You, the big winner of the gambling fight, are relaxed." Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, "Of course I know this. Please rest assured, Headchen, I will give Senior Bai an explanation. I won't let him die without knowing the reason." Chen Fengxiao was stunned. What is this?" Then, Zhang Xiaohua slowly walked forward a few steps and said loudly, "Senior brothers of the Pill Expanding Hall, I am Ren Xiaoyao from the Grass Sect. Hee, I think everyone already knows me by now." Seeing this, not only Chen Fengxiao was stunned, but everyone else was also stunned. They looked at him strangely and secretly said, "Is he going to give a victory speech?" Well, that's right. A victory speech is very important. A speech of entry, a speech of apprenticeship, and a speech of victory are also important. Zhang Xiaohua continued, "I've just arrived at Tianmu Peak and have just joined the big family of Pill Tower Hall. I'm very happy and hope that I can get along well with all of you in the future. The victory of the 3 battles in the morning, as well as the 3 prizes, don't matter to me. Yes, everything is fleeting. I still care about your feelings and hope that you all will treat me as your own junior brother. Also, I asked senior brother Bai Huan to help me bet on those 2 pills. Of course, I bet on myself to win. I'm sure all of you won't suspect me of cheating. Don't you think that I won't cheat?" With a boom, everyone was in an uproar. They were all whispering to each other. What he said was right. It was only reasonable that Zhang Xiaohua bet on himself. After all, he had bet on himself before. It could be regarded as giving himself some energy and motivation. Moreover, 2 elixirs were more reasonable. After all, he didn't have the confidence to win. However, each person using 2 medicinal pills to exchange for 2,000 medicinal pills, that was thought-provoking. Some people's faces gradually became unkind. At this time, Zhang Xiaohua said, "But, I'm new here, so I have to give everyone a greeting gift." Everyone's hearts raced. It couldn't be that they were going to be exempted, right? They really knew how to think. Zhang Xiaohua said, "This is a greeting gift. No matter if it's the 3 senior martial brothers on the stage or the many senior martial brothers off the stage, within these 3 days, bring the same amount of medicinal pills as you and come to my small courtyard to continue the challenge. As long as you can win, I will wipe out the bill of your losses. Oh, that's right. If you don't have enough medicinal pills, then bring some rare medicinal herbs. I won't refuse any of them." Unfair. Suddenly, a person from the Dan department shouted, "You know martial arts. Many of our Dan department's disciples are not good at martial arts. How can we be your opponent just by relying on martial arts?" Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "This senior martial brother is right. You can ask other senior martial brothers who know martial arts to fight. Of course, this senior martial brother who stands out will also have to take out medicinal pills. Or, if you feel that your martial arts are not good enough, you can form a group of 5 to 10 people. I will accept all of them." At this moment, Chen Fengxiao could not figure out Zhang Xiaohua's intentions. If Zhang Xiaohua simply wanted to know Zhang Xiaohua's true intentions, there was no need to make such a big move. This seemed to be a 1 versus 10 situation. Even Chen Fengxiao would not dare to declare war on everyone like this. Zhang Xiaohua didn't care about this. When he saw the eagerness in the eyes of the disciples, he knew that his words had worked. Then, his legs went soft again, as if he had no strength. Chen Fengxiao hurried forward to support him and said, "Disciples, since Ren Xiaoyao from the Grass Department is so generous and wants to return the winnings to you in a unique way, then please come to the small courtyard by the mountain tomorrow to challenge him. Let him have a good rest this afternoon. There were already disciples of the Dan department who had found a loophole in Zhang Xiaohua's words and wanted to go to the small courtyard in the afternoon to challenge him. But when they heard Qin Fengxiao's words, they gave up the idea of taking advantage of the situation. Qin Fengxiao supported Zhang Xiaohua and waved to Bai Huan, saying, "Come here and help junior brother run back to the small courtyard. Later, go to the judges and bring the list of people who have placed their bets. This is junior brother Ren's first time participating, so he probably doesn't know how to deal with the aftermath. You can do it for him." Bai Huan didn't dare to disobey. She quickly ran over and supported Zhang Xiaohua, who was on the verge of collapsing. Then, she slowly walked back to the small courtyard. As soon as Zhang Xiaohua left, the biggest bet in the history of Tianmu Peak ended beautifully. In the past, the grass department always won more than they lost. But today, they were the biggest winner. Before Zhang Xiaohua's figure disappeared, Qin Fengxiao couldn't help but smile. Not to mention that other than Zhang Xiaohua's 3 wins, the other 5 bets were all funded by him. How could the wealth of the 6 great arhats be worth 50 taels of gold? Excluding the 2 losses, Qin Fengxiao's grass department had won 3 bets, 150 taels of gold. In addition to the 300 taels of gold that the Dan department had lost to the grass department, it was a total of 450 taels of gold. If it was converted into elixirs, it would be a terrifying figure. Qin Fengxiao was a little worried. Did Wu Dalong have enough wealth to pay for the bet? This worry was actually the reason why Qin Fengxiao wanted Zhang Xiaohua to lose a match at that time. Since he couldn't pay for it, he might as well not win. It could be considered as giving face to Wu Zhouxiu. The first thing after the bet was to settle the results. At this time, the 5 guardians were sitting behind the table, quietly waiting for the arrival of Qin Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxiu. After the radiant Qin Fengxiao and the gloomy Wu Zhouxiu walked in front of them, Old Guardian Lei said with a smile, "Since the 2 leaders are here, let's start settling the results now." Then, he pointed to the dozens of huge sheets of paper in front of them and said, "Except for the list of bets for the last bet, the rest are the same as before. We will post them for public display and let the disciples hand over their bets to us. Then, we will distribute the elixirs according to the situation of each match." Qin Fengxiao and Wu Zhouxiu both nodded and said, "This is common practice. Thank you for your hard work." Old Guardian Lei said with a smile, "The amount of bets for this bet is very large. We have also benefited greatly. There's no need to be courteous. Oh, as for the list of bets for the last bet, I think, according to what Leader Chen said just now, let the grass division take it and let Ren Xiaoyao face it alone. What do you think?" Qin Fengxiao cupped his hands and said, "Ren Xiaoyao doesn't know the rules. He has made a fool of himself in front of all of you. However, it's good that he's doing this. It will reduce the burden on all of you. If all of you don't object, Wu Dalong also has no objections." "I also agree." Wu Zhouxiu sneered and said, "It's the disciples' bets left and right. Moreover, it's all against Ren Xiaoyao alone. Then let him have a headache. Why would I have any objections?" "Yes." Old Guardian Lei nodded. He picked up the top few sheets and handed them to Qin Fengxiao. The other sheets were handed to the disciple beside him for him to post. Then, Old Guardian Lei took out a piece of white paper from the side and picked up a pen to write on it. After he finished writing, he handed it to Qin Fengxiao and said with a smile, "Leader Chen, this is the final result of the bet between the grass division and the pill division. The pill division needs to pay the grass division a total of 300 taels of gold or elixirs of equivalent value. Look carefully. If you have no objections, please sign and make your mark." Qin Fengxiao took it and looked carefully. Without hesitation, he picked up the pen and signed on it. Beside him, Wu Zhouxiu's cheeks twitched when he heard this. When he took the pen, Qin Fengxiao said apologetically, "Dalong, you know why I put Ren Xiaoyao's last 2 bets together. It's just that." Wu Zhouxiu gritted his teeth and said, "Leader Qin, don't say any more. I understand. It's just that, sigh. My life is not good. Forget it. Don't worry. I will pay you back even if I have to sell everything." These words were said with integrity, but also very bleak. Of course, if Wu Zhouxiu had not schemed against the golden leaf in Zhang Xiaohua's bag, how would he have ended up like this? Not to mention that he had to compensate the grass division for the previous bet, Even his own family's property would be emptied. Man proposes, God disposes, and the unintentional can't outsmart the intentional. At this time, the most intentional person, with the help of Bai Huan, slowly walked back to the small courtyard by the cliff. When they reached the door, Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said to Bai Huan, "Senior brother Bai, I have troubled you with the betting just now. You can send me here. I will go in myself." "All right, tell the other senior brothers that I will have a good rest this afternoon. Don't disturb me. Also, I will have to trouble senior brother Bai to organize the records of the challenges and elixirs in the next 3 days. I think senior brother Bai should be familiar with this." Then, he took out a bottle of blood-replenishing pills from his bag and handed it to Bai Huan, saying, "The blood-replenishing pills in the bottle are for senior brother Bai. The rest is my thanks." Bai Huan immediately declined. "Junior brother Ren is too polite. The 2 elixirs you bet on are senior brother Chio's. Moreover, you don't have to give the elixirs first. You have to pay the final amount. The elixirs are still in my arms. Then I will give this bottle of elixirs to senior brother Bai and senior brother Chio. You can give it to senior brother Chio. After I am done with these 2 days, I will thank senior brother Bai. Is that so?" Bai Huan was a little overjoyed, saying, "In that case, senior brother will not be polite." After he finished speaking, he reached out and took the bottle. Zhang Xiaohua thought for a moment and said, "Senior brother Bai, there is one more thing I need to trouble you with." Bai Huan, who had benefited from it, smiled and said, "Since we are brothers, just tell me what you need." Zhang Xiaohua said seriously, "Our brothers in the grass division must have been suppressed by the pill division and don't have any elixirs in hand. I have so many elixirs here, but they are useless. If the brothers in the grass division want elixirs, then you can use your herbs to exchange for them." Exchange elixirs with herbs? Bai Huan was stunned. Please vote monthly. Recommend -3. Chapter 558. Bai Huan was very puzzled. These herbs were everywhere on Tianmu Peak. Who would be so wasteful as to exchange elixirs for herbs? These were 2 completely different things. Thus, he asked in disbelief, "Junior Marshal Brother Ren, are you telling the truth? You can exchange herbs for elixirs?" Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile, "Of course it's true. Didn't I say it on the field just now?" Bai Huan scratched her head. Who would believe that? Herbs are not valuable, and we can't refine them into elixirs. Who would exchange elixirs for something so simple? "Oh, Junior Brother Ren, do you have any other conditions?" Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, "That's right. You don't need to exchange for ordinary herbs. Only the older, rare, or never-before-seen herbs are useful." "Really?" Bai Huan still didn't believe him and said, "I happen to have an unknown medicinal herb that I picked up in the Yulon Grand Canyon a few years ago when I was lucky enough to participate in the Yulon Evening Refinement. I wonder how many pills Junior Brother Ren can give me?" Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. Yulon Evening Refinement? Yulon Grand Canyon? What's that? However, Bai Huan was too excited to listen to him. She immediately turned around and walked away. As she walked, she said, "Junior Brother Ren, you go in and have a rest. I'll get that herb and see if I can exchange it for small bone-congealing pill." Zhang Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said loudly, "Senior Brother Bai, don't worry. It's not too late to bring it tomorrow. I'll keep it for you. I need to adjust my qi circulation and rest later." Bai Huan stopped and said worriedly, "Junior Brother Ren, you must keep it for me. I'll go back now and ask Elder Lei for the record of the bet. I'll help you sort it out first. Well, if you want to fulfill the wishes of our Grass Clan brothers, I'll definitely help you." After he finished speaking, he waved his hand and hurriedly left. Since he was the first to receive the news, he had to prepare the medicinal herbs first. He couldn't let others beat him to it. If it weren't for Zhang Xiaohua's repeated reminders, he might have only told others the news after he finished exchanging for the medicinal pills. Seeing Bai Huan leave happily, Zhang Xiaohua was even happier. Not only could she exchange her useless pills for medicinal herbs, but she could also establish a good image in front of the Grass Clan brothers. Anyone would be happy. Walking into the courtyard, Zhang Xiaohua closed the door and jumped into the air. She somersaulted a few times in the air and landed on the ground. She almost looked up to the sky and laughed. Today, She was really too excited. Thinking about the 150 taels of gold worth of medicinal pills and the pills that almost all the disciples of Tianmu Peak had lost to her. Well, if they didn't give up tomorrow and still wanted to fish for more, then they would lose the same amount of medicinal pills to her. Just thinking about this amount of money was scary. Hee. If she used these medicinal pills to exchange for medicinal herbs, then how much would she get? Moreover, even a disciple like Bai Huan had rare medicinal herbs, not to mention the other disciples. She had just entered the fragrance cult and was already able to find the dragon scale fruit in the forest. Then these disciples who were active in Tianmu Peak and the other 19 peaks would definitely have better things. That's right. What is this Yulon Dusk refinement in the Yulon Grand Canyon? There must be some excellent medicinal herbs in there. I should ask Headmaster Chun when I have time and take a look. In the eyes of others, the 3 gambling matches in a single morning might seem very difficult, just like Zhang Xiaohua's performance. However, in reality, Zhang Xiaohua was simply playing around. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted to lure the disciples to take revenge in the next 3 days, or that he wanted to keep a low profile, he would have finished off all the so-called Vajras in the first few moments of the battle. Now that his muscles and bones had been moved, it was natural for him to comprehend the heavenly Tao and cultivate array formations. This was his real homework. The heavenly Tao was so vast, and Zhang Xiaohua was so small. Under the brilliance of heaven and earth, Zhang Xiaohua was almost not even an ant. Every time Zhang Xiaohua sensed the boundless heavenly Tao, he couldn't help but sigh with emotion. This seemingly endless comprehension, he didn't know when it would come to an end. However, every time he sighed, it also sharpened his Tao heart, making his Tao heart more solid. The ancients said, "There is a path in the mountain of books, and there is a path in the boundless sea of learning." This was the most accurate. The seemingly indeterminate heavenly Tao had gradually formed a small path in Zhang Xiaohua's tireless comprehension. Although it was just the beginning and the path ahead was not clear, there were 3,000 great Taos, and each path was different. Who could say that Zhang Xiaohua's small path would not develop into a great Tao in the future? Could it be one of the 3,000 great Taos? Time passed very quickly, and the floating clouds in the sky gradually thinned out. The fiery sun had already set in the west. Zhang Xiaohua, who was comprehending the heavenly Tao, seemed to have gained something, but also seemed to have gained nothing. In the haze, his heart suddenly moved. He frowned and opened his eyes, releasing his divine sense. Sure enough, he saw that outside the bamboo forest, a person was sneakily looking left and right. He walked over quietly, and when he was close to the bamboo forest, he turned his head and saw that there was no one near him. He immediately exerted force on his feet, and his figure flashed into the bamboo forest. Then, he used his lightness skill to rush to the small courtyard where Zhang Xiaohua lived. When Zhang Xiaohua looked carefully, wasn't that the leader of the 10 great guardian deities, Zhou Shuming? What is this unlucky guy doing here? Wasn't he killed by Headmaster Chun when he just entered the arena yesterday? Don't tell me he's here to find trouble with me? Zhang Xiaohua was somewhat puzzled. Even if he's here to find trouble with me, he can come openly tomorrow. I've already said that the challenge will begin tomorrow. Coming today, it's not proper for him to come, is it? Zhang Xiaohua's divine sense followed Zhou Shuming until the small courtyard was near. Zhou Shuming jumped down from the bamboo. His figure was very vigorous, and when he saw Zhang Xiaohua's heart moved, this guy's lightness skill is higher than Qi Yuntian's. It's almost the same as the patrolling disciple I met when I first entered the fragrant religion. I know, this guy is here to scout for information. Presumably, Zhang Xiaohua did not delay. His figure jumped, and he quickly lay down on the bed that he had never touched before, pretending to be asleep. Zhang Xiaohua's guess was not wrong. She saw Zhou Shuming carefully jump up the wall, and then he went around to the back of the courtyard. In a flash, he entered the small courtyard and used his lightness skill to reach the top of the attic. He pressed his ear to the roof and listened for a long time. Then he tiptoed to the roof, and like a lotus flower hanging upside down, he stuck his head out of the roof. In the empty room, he saw Zhang Xiaohua lying on the bed with his clothes still on. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua's sleeping appearance, Zhou Shuming could not help but smile. As long as one's martial arts was strong, if they exhausted their internal energy, they would sit cross-legged and adjust their breathing. But this kind of ordinary person's rest, needless to say, was because their physical strength was exhausted. Simple adjustment of breathing would not be able to recover, and they could only rely on the most primitive method to satisfy the body's needs. It seems that this Ren Xiaoyao is really tired. Hee, isn't that right? 2 matches in a row, even I would not be able to win completely. Moreover, the last match was to exhaust my physical strength. This little guy is still inexperienced in gambling. Although sleeping can replenish his physical strength, but when he wakes up the next day, his hands and feet will be weak. How can he gamble? This trip was not in vain. Zhou Shuming thought to himself as he observed carefully. After a meal, the sky had already darkened. Only then did Zhou Shuming pack up and use his qinggong to slip away. In the darkness, his figure could not be seen clearly. Ha! After Zhou Shuming left, Zhang Xiaohua flipped over and sat up. She muttered to herself, "It seems that the people of Tianmu Peak are not fools. They actually sent someone to check on me. It seems that I have to set up more bait tomorrow." After thinking, Zhang Xiaohua was about to close her eyes and do her homework when she suddenly frowned. Although she did not release her divine sense, after exhausting her divine sense in the Rejuvenation Valley, she had gained a deeper understanding of the way of the heavens. Abnormalities within a radius of several tens of feet would often be reflected in her senses without her divine sense. At this moment, she sensed that someone was approaching the bamboo forest. This Headmaster Chun is really good. At noon in the gambling arena, he had already made it clear that no one was to disturb me. Why is there still someone disturbing me at night? Just now, it was the Daijin gang of the Dan department. Who could it be now? When Zhang Xiaohua used his divine sense to look, it was not anyone else. It was Headmaster Chen Fengxiao. Beside him was his right-hand man Qiu Weicheng. It was just that the two of them walked to the side of the bamboo forest and stopped in their tracks. They were whispering to each other and discussing something, just like the last time when they came to the Wuzhou ruins. Zhang Xiaohua shrugged and thought to himself, what's wrong with them? They still haven't finished their discussion and come over. However, it was different this time. The two of them talked for a while and looked at the small courtyard at the other end of the bamboo forest. They did not enter again. Instead, they nodded to each other and turned back. Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. Why didn't they come in? That's strange. Since they did not come to disturb him, Zhang Xiaohua continued with his homework. He immersed his divine sense into his An palace and began to comprehend his rabbit talisman. He had forgotten that the sky was already dark, and he did not even light a lamp. It gave people the impression that he was already asleep. How could Qin Fengxiao and Qiu Weicheng knock on the door in the dark? It was a quiet night. The next morning, Zhang Xiaohua finished practicing the Big Dipper magical fist and released his divine sense. He actually did not discover anyone within 100 feet of him. He could not help but feel strange. Could it be that they were not fooled? Sigh, Zhang Xiaohua was a little obsessed with money. The sky had just brightened, and people had not even eaten breakfast. Why would they rush over to find trouble with him? Although there was no one now, people would come soon. It was neither too long nor too short a time. Zhang Xiaohua was a little bored and took out the jade water sword from his money bag. Although the jade water sword was very sharp and could produce sword light by injecting qi into it, it was a pity that Zhang Xiaohua did not know any sword techniques. Those nameless sword techniques were all used by Zhu Ming. This jade water sword could only be of little use. Casually injecting qi into the jade water sword, he randomly waved it in the air a few times. The sound of the sword tearing through the air was very ear-piercing. If it could be paired with a suitable sword technique, it would be a sharp weapon to kill the enemy. Regretfully withdrawing his qi, Zhang Xiaohua looked at the jade water sword in front of him and then inserted the short sword into the old scabbard. But just as his gaze swept past the scabbard, Zhang Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. His divine sense quickly swept over, and immediately, his eyes flashed with surprise. Vote for me. -3. Chapter 559. When Zhang Xiaohua received the Jade Water Sword from weapon-casting sect Si Yakong, he had also used his divine sense to examine the Jade Water Sword. However, he had not seen the scabbard in Si Yakong's hands. At this moment, he spread out his divine sense. With just a glance, he could sense the strangeness within. This scabbard was not strange because of the fluctuation of vital qi emitted by the scabbard, which could attract the attention of Zhang Xiaohua's divine sense. Instead, it was because when his divine sense swept past, he actually discovered that there was an extremely hidden layer at the bottom of the scabbard. This layer was extremely small and blocked the interior of the scabbard. Even if he used his naked eyes to observe, he would not be able to see it. Since the layer was so hidden, and the scabbard was also extremely simple and unadorned, the things inside must be extraordinary. Zhang Xiaohua picked up the jade water sword and channeled vital qi into it. Immediately, it produced an inch-long sword ray. Then, he raised the scabbard and very carefully cut a small slit in the scabbard. From that slit, a piece of silk was revealed. Zhang Xiaohua used the fingernail of his little finger to pull out the silk. It was actually a large sword manual that recorded all kinds of sword-wielding figures. Zhang Xiaohua frowned and thought to himself, "My luck is actually so good? Just now, I was still thinking that if there was a matching sword manual, now I can find the real sword manual in the scabbard. That's not very possible." As expected, when he looked at it carefully, the sword manual depicted a long sword and not a short sword like the jade water sword. It seemed like this sword manual was not specially used for the jade water sword. Of course, if Zhang Xiaohua fully displayed the sword ray, its length would be about the same as a normal long sword. Zhang Xiaohua would not think that this was a sword technique specially used for the sword ray. Although this sword technique might not be suitable for the jade water sword, didn't Zhang Xiaohua still have the great wisdom sword? Moreover, Zhang Xiaohua himself did not have a complete set of sword manuals. Therefore, Zhang Xiaohua still carefully read it from beginning to end. However, Zhang Xiaohua frowned as he read. His martial arts cultivation had already reached a higher level. Perhaps he had not really learned sword techniques before, but when he mastered one technique, he could master all techniques. When he finished reading all 81 sword techniques, he felt that there was something strange about it. However, he could not tell where the reason was at that moment. Zhang Xiaohua was about to take a closer look when he heard a call out from outside. Zhang Xiaohua slapped his forehead and laughed heartily. "Business is here." Putting away the silk, Zhang Xiaohua walked out of the house. Bai Huan's call came from outside the courtyard. Hearing Zhang Xiaohua's response, Bai Huan quickly walked into the courtyard. He was holding a few pieces of paper with densely packed words in his hands. His eyes were a little red as he walked in. When he saw Zhang Xiaohua, he smiled and said, "Junior brother Ren, you really made a fortune. Previously, when I saw you winning 3 rounds in a row in the gambling arena, I was already jealous. However, when Headmaster Chan brought me the betting records last night and asked me to help you manage them, I finally know what it means to be jealous." Then, he shook the paper in his hand and said, "This is a lot more pills than Junior brother Ren won 3 rounds in the gambling arena. Junior brother Rin is really smart to bet so tightly. Why didn't I bet with you at that time?" Before Zhang Xiaohua placed his bet, he had a rough idea of what was going on. He didn't expect that he was the only one who placed his bet on the grass division winning. If there were a few more people, not many, just 10, then the bet wouldn't be so eye-catching. However, Zhang Xiaohua's fortune was booming, and he was the only one who won. Zhang Xiaohua coughed twice and put on an enigmatic look. He smiled and said, "Senior brother Bai, you worry too much. I'll have to trouble senior brother Bai to work hard these few days. When everything is settled, I'll have a generous reward for you." Bai Huan smiled apologetically and said, "Junior brother Ren will be the moneybags of Tianmu Peak in the future. As your senior brother, I still have to rely on you. You don't have to be so polite." Then, he took out a small jade box and handed it over, saying, "Junior brother Ren, this is the medicinal herb that I've collected. Take a look and see if it's to your liking." Zhang Xiaohua took the jade box. The jade box was very long and narrow, like a thick stick. He casually opened the jade box. Inside, there was a light blue medicinal herb. The leaves were triangular, and there were small yellow flowers at the top. The flowers had long withered, but they emitted a faint fragrance. Although the fragrance was very faint, when it entered the nose, it would make one's heart faint. When Zhang Xiaohua saw it, he frowned. but a trace of joy flashed in his eyes. This medicinal herb was indeed familiar. Although he hadn't seen it before, ever since he saw the prescription for the bone-solidifying pill, he had flipped through the compendium of materia medica and carefully looked at the several main ingredients in the prescription. Wasn't this the fragrant soulwood used in the bone-solidifying pill? In just a few days, he was actually able to find all three main ingredients to refine the bone-solidifying pill. This aroma cult was really a treasure trove. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua frown, Bai Huan couldn't help but feel his heart skip a beat. He nervously said, "Junior brother Ren, if it's not enough for one bone-solidifying pill, I have a few ordinary medicinal herbs that are around 20 years old. If they are suitable, junior brother, please take a look." Zhang Xiaohua heard and laughed. "I didn't expect senior brother Bai to have such a collection." Bai Huan chuckled and said, "We disciples of the grass division may be lacking in elixirs, but we don't lack medicinal herbs. Who doesn't have medicinal herbs that are 20 years old? Even the disciples of the pill division have won against us in recent years. Oh, by the way, junior brother Ren, this time, you have to be more ruthless to the disciples of the pill division. Help our brothers of the grass division vent their anger." Zhang Xiaohua laughed and patted Bai Huan's shoulder. "That's exactly what I want. Well, senior brother Bai, take out all the medicinal herbs you have. This is the first time I've opened a business, so I'll definitely give you a satisfactory price." Bai Huan smiled awkwardly and took out several jade boxes from his arms and handed them over. Zhang Xiaohua opened them one by one. Although they were not particularly good, they were still rare medicinal herbs that were over 20 years old in Jianghu. Zhang Xiaohua accepted them without hesitation. Then, he took out a jade bottle from his arms and handed it to Bai Huan. "Senior brother Bai, here are 3 bone-solidifying pills. Do you like them? If not, I don't have anything good here for the time being. When they send the pills here later, I'll exchange them for you." Hearing 3 bone-solidifying pills, Bai Huan couldn't suppress his joy. He snatched the jade bottle and put it into his arms like lightning. Fearing that Zhang Xiaohua would go back on his word, he kept saying, "That's great, that's great." Seeing Bai Huan's quick actions, Zhang Xiaohua was a little dumbfounded. If this was the case in the fighting arena, who could be Bai Huan's opponent? Holding the record in his hand, Bai Huan slowly explained the situation of yesterday's bet to Zhang Xiaohua while waiting for the arrival of the challengers. But after waiting for almost the time to eat a meal, no one came into the small courtyard. Even when Zhang Xiaohua released his divine sense, he didn't see any traces of other disciples around the bamboo forest. Zhang Xiaohua was a little surprised. Could it be that I've misunderstood? Under the education of Wu Dalong and Headmaster Chun, the disciples of Tianmu Peak have all reached an unattainable level? But when he thought of Zhou Shuming's spying yesterday, Zhang Xiaohua faintly understood. They are all waiting for some test. Maybe only when they feel that I can't handle the challenge of so many people will they continue to come. But what if the first one to test me is the 3 King Kongs? Or the people they invite as replacements? That's an elixir worth 50 taels of gold. Should I let it go? Just as he was thinking, 3 people came from outside the bamboo forest. When Zhang Xiaohua looked, it was Wu Zhouxiu, Chen Fengxiao, and Zhou Shuming. There were no other disciples behind them. What's going on? Zhang Xiaohua didn't find it strange. Chen Fengxiao took the lead and led the 2 into the small courtyard. He saw the paper spread on the table, Bai Huan sitting next to it with his chin resting on his hand, and Zhang Xiaohua standing next to him, full of energy and ready to fight. He couldn't help smiling. "Little brother, are you still waiting for the other disciples to send you elixirs?" "No, I'm waiting to return the elixirs to the other disciples." Wu Zhouxiu also walked forward and cupped his hands. "Junior brother Ren, you are a great talent. I admire you." "You've been exposed?" This was Zhang Xiaohua's first reaction. He immediately asked, "Wu Dalong, what do you mean? I don't understand." Ahem. Wu Zhouxiu coughed twice and said helplessly, "Junior brother Ren, not to mention your great victory yesterday, just the conditions you mentioned before you left yesterday caused the entire Tianmu Peak to be restless for the entire night." "That's right. Let's not talk about the pill division. Even our grass division had formed many small groups last night, wanting to challenge you today. Even the 6 great arhats had been stirred up and were eager to give it a try. Wu Zhoushu at the side looked at Zhou Shuming and said, "The 3 Vajras who lost to you yesterday all went to find junior brother Zhou, wanting him to help them. Even the other disciples went to all 10 Vajras. Tell me, aren't you a great talent? You've only been at Tianmu Peak for a few days, and you've already caused such a ruckus?" Zhang Xiaohua grinned and bowed. I didn't think it through. I hope the 2 leaders can forgive me, but what should we do now that we've already said what we wanted yesterday? Chen Feng smiled and looked at Wu Zhoushu, then turned to Zhang Xiaohua and said, "The disciples of the Dan and Grass divisions were all stopped by us. To them, it's just some elixirs, not a big deal. There's no need to make such a big fuss. However, the stakes of the 3 Vajras are not small, so we can't make the decision on our own." He then pointed at Zhou Shuming and said, "Look, the great Vajra of the Dan division has been elected. Yes, he represents the 3 Vajras who lost to you, as well as the disciples of the Grass division and Dan division who lost to you. He's here to challenge you. This isn't fair, right?" Zhang Xiaohua was speechless. Even if I lose to the great Vajra, I can still win against normal disciples. Wu Zhoushu looked as if he had expected this and said, "It's like this. First, junior brother Zhou represents everyone else to challenge you. If he loses, everyone else's stakes will be increased by 20%. If you lose, you don't have to take everything. You just have to remove 20%. What do you think?" Hee. Zhang Xiaohua was secretly happy. "I think you've all thought it through. If I don't agree, they won't challenge me. I won't even get the extra 20%. Yes, enough is enough. I still have to stay on Tianmu Peak in the future. It's not good to make things too difficult for others." Zhang Xiaohua nodded and said, "That's good. I like it very much. I wonder if Wu Dalong has anything else to say?" Wu Zhoushu smiled and said, "Since it's a challenge, if junior brother Zhou raises the conditions of the battle, you should agree to them, right?" This. Zhang Xiaohua was a little dumbfounded. "Don't tell me it's alcohol?" He said, "Only the conditions of the battle. Nothing else." -3. Chapter 560. No one knew that Zhang Xiaohua was so afraid of drinking. Wu Zhoushu said, "Of course, it's a martial arts competition." Zhang Xiaohua rubbed her nose and said, "Then please enlighten me." Wu Zhoushu pointed at Zhou Shuming and said, "Junior brother Zhou is best at Qinggong. Moreover, junior brother Ren was too tired yesterday and is not suitable for a real fight. Therefore, I have discussed with head leader Chen. Why don't we use Qinggong as the competition content? Junior brother Ren, what do you think?" Zhang Xiaohua had seen how good Zhou Shuming's Qinggong was yesterday, so he was very confident. He smiled and said, "Thank you for your consideration. This Qinggong competition is really tailor-made for me. Then let's do as you say. How should we compete?" Chen Feng smiled as he pointed at the peak of Tianmu Peak in the distance. "We'll start from this small courtyard. You and junior brother Zhou will start towards the peak of Tianmu Peak. There's a giant stone screen at the peak. Elder Lei and the representatives of the Pill and Grass divisions are already waiting there. Whoever reaches the stone screen first will be the winner." Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "Looks like the 2 leaders have arranged everything. I have nothing else to say. Please begin." Chun Fengxiao's face reddened. However, Zhang Xiaohua had offended all the disciples of Tianmu Peak this time and could only suffer a little. Although Zhou Shuming's martial arts was not as good as Chen Fengxiao's, he had been training in internal strength since young and was much stronger than Chen Fengxiao. In Chen Fengxiao's heart, Zhang Xiaohua might not be able to win against Zhou Shuming. However, taking out 20% of the bet to appease the crowd was also very worthwhile. Zhou Shuming heard and smiled. "Junior brother Run was tired yesterday, and I took advantage of him today. Now, please go first." Zhang Xiaohua quickly waved her hand and said, "Don't, senior brother Zhou. You bear the heavy responsibility of the Pill and Grass divisions of our Tianmu Peak. If you are so modest, you will be letting them down. Let's start together." Zhou Shuming's heart trembled, and he cupped his hands and said, "Junior brother is right. Then I'll ask head leader Chun to give the order, and we'll begin together." Chen Feng glanced at Wuzhou ruins with a smile and said, "Then I'll count to 3 and we'll begin. The wind is strong on the mountain peak. Don't let Elder Lei wait for too long. Then he said, 1, 2, 3. In an instant, Zhou Shuming exerted force on his feet, and his figure shot out of the small courtyard like an arrow leaving the bow. Behind him, a green shadow followed closely behind, and was not the slightest bit slower. Wasn't that Zhang Xiaohua? Ah! Qin Fengxiao and Wu Zhoushu were shocked when they saw Zhang Xiaohua and Zhou Shuming rush out at the same time, and the speed at which they rushed out was not inferior. Then, they hurriedly used their lightness skill to leap over the wall. Looking at the two shadows running one after another to the top of the mountain, they looked at each other again and said, "It's really tailor-made." Ren Xiaoyao's martial arts is so high that it's not weaker than Zhou Shuming's. It seems that this competition is not what we thought before. Not to mention the two on the wall secretly sighing at their miscalculation. Zhou Shuming and Zhang Xiaohua both used their qinggong to rush to the top of Tianmu Peak. Although in everyone's eyes, and even in Zhou Shuming's heart, the ethereal steps used by Zhang Xiaohua was not something that the pill-expanding hall disciples, who were not even outer disciples of the incense cult, could compare to. Actually, at this point, Zhang Xiaohua had to be criticized. He had been playing the game of a pig to eat a tiger these 2 days, and was really bullying the pill-expanding hall disciples. Based on his true level, it was far beyond what Qinfeng and Wuzhou ruins could imagine. However, firstly, he wanted to enter the pill-expanding hall in a low-key manner to find information about his second brother, so he could not expose his strength. Secondly, he was targeted by Wuzhou ruins and had no choice but to participate in the gambling fight. Thirdly, he did not want to lose his golden leaf to others, and wanted to earn some pills and herbs from others. Therefore, he had no choice but to repeatedly tease these pill-expanding hall disciples. As for Zhou Shuming, he did not know how many times he had run from the waist of Tianmu Peak to the top of the mountain, so he had adjusted his internal energy to the best state. However, no matter how he circulated his internal energy, or how hard he pushed his feet, it seemed that he could not shake off Zhang Xiaohua's tracking. And Zhang Xiaohua seemed to know that this was the last round, so he did not care about his internal energy and followed Zhou Shuming with all his might. Seeing that they were halfway there, the two of them followed the rugged mountain path to an extremely steep area. Zhou Shuming's eyes turned, and his figure flashed, leaving the mountain path, and ran straight to the bottom of a cliff. He turned back to look at Zhang Xiaohua, who was also following him, and could not help but reveal a trace of fierceness in his eyes. He then used both his hands and feet to climb up the steep cliff. This, Zhang Xiaohua, who had followed him to the bottom of the cliff, paused slightly. Looking at the almost vertical cliff, he could not help but hesitate. He was not afraid that he could not climb up, but he was afraid that something would happen to Zhou Shuming. After this round of qinggong competition, he already had a rough idea of Zhou Shuming's level of qinggong and internal energy. This steep cliff was indeed somewhat difficult for Zhou Shuming. But seeing that Zhou Shuming had already climbed up, Zhang Xiaohua did not delay any longer. His body leaned against the cliff wall, and his hands and feet also stuck to it, as if he was climbing. Then he used his internal energy to raise his hand, and used the levitation technique. Immediately he rose up a distance, and not long after, he caught up with Zhou Shuming again. Zhang Xiaohua's guess was not wrong. This cliff was where Zhou Shuming used to practice his qinggong. He had always been able to climb up to a height of 500 feet, and if he went any higher, his internal energy would not be able to support him. In his mind, if he could not climb up to 500 feet, then Zhang Xiaohua would not even be able to climb up to 300 feet. When Zhang Xiaohua slid down the cliff, wouldn't it be time for him to win? Unfortunately, when he reached 30 meters, he looked down and saw Zhang Xiaohua slowly climbing up beneath his feet. When he reached 60 meters, Zhang Xiaohua was still doing the same. When he reached his limit of 50 meters, Zhang Xiaohua was still below him, slowly climbing up. It was almost as if he didn't have the strength to do so. Thinking of this, Zhou Shuming raised his head to look at the peak that was still far away. He was a little hesitant. 500 feet was already his limit. If he slowly slid down now, he should not be hurt. If he went any higher, his internal energy would not be enough. If an accident happened, his life would be in danger. But he had already chosen this path, and he was shouldering the trust of the disciples. If he failed, wouldn't it be Perhaps this was an opportunity for him to make a breakthrough in his qigong? Zhou Shuming's eyes suddenly lit up. Although he couldn't do it, Zhang Xiaohua under his feet couldn't do it either. Maybe he would admit defeat in half an hour. At this point, Zhou Shuming also couldn't hide his shame. He had no choice but to brace himself and climb up. Thus, he took a deep breath and continuously sent his internal energy into his meridians. He could only hope that Zhang Xiaohua would quickly give up and surrender. However, after climbing up another 200 feet, Zhou Shuming's internal energy was not enough. When he sneaked a glance down, Zhang Xiaohua's thin and tall figure still did not fall half an inch. Zhou Shuming could not help but be greatly surprised. At this moment, his mind was slightly agitated and became unstable. The flow of internal energy in his meridian stagnated. His body could not help but sink and fall. Zhou Shuming was shocked and involuntarily cried out, "Ouch!" His internal energy was immediately deflated, and he could not stabilize his body. He saw that he was about to fall onto Zhang Xiaohua. Long before they came up the cliff, Zhang Xiaohua had been paying attention to Zhou Shuming's movements. She was afraid that he would do something sneaky, and she was also afraid that something would happen to him. And Zhang Xiaohua was right below Zhou Shuming with the same intention. Seeing Zhou Shuming fall, she was not surprised. Her body slightly moved to the side to make space for him to fall. Zhou Shuming's body made a schwa sound and was about to fall from Zhang Xiaohua's side. At this moment, Zhou Shuming's eyes were full of fear. This was a cliff that was nearly 100 feet high. In a moment, he would fall to the ground. His internal energy was not enough, and he had nowhere to borrow strength in the air. At this moment, he saw that Zhang Xiaohua stretched out her left hand and grabbed one of Zhou Shuming's arms like lightning. Zhou Shuming panicked. That arm was about to use force to stabilize his body, and the other hand was about to grab Zhang Xiaohua. In his ears, he heard Zhang Xiaohua's clear voice, "Don't move. If you don't want to die, don't use force and don't pull me. If I feel that you want to move, I will let go of you." Zhou Shuming was stunned and immediately stopped moving. He didn't even dare to move his fingers. Zhang Xiaohua had heard Li Jinfeng say before that if a drowning person wanted to go out, first, they had to be knocked out. Otherwise, if they were pulled by the hands and feet, they would drown. Just now, she felt that Zhou Shuming also wanted to pull her. Although she wasn't afraid, after all, she would have to expose her strength. That was something that Zhang Xiaohua didn't want to do. Zhang Xiaohua's left hand pulled Zhou Shuming. As usual, she slowly climbed up. After a while, she finally reached the top of the cliff. When she jumped up, she put Zhou Shuming down. This was a protruding platform. It was right in the middle of the clouds. In front of them, there was still a very tall mountain peak. When Zhou Shuming's feet touched the ground, his heart finally relaxed. With a face full of shame, he looked at Zhang Xiaohua and bowed. "Junior brother Ren, thank you for saving my life. This match is over. I have already lost." Okay. Zhang Xiaohua didn't decline. She also didn't modestly ask Zhou Shuming to compete with her again. Instead, she smiled and said, "It's best that senior brother Zhou can admit defeat. Senior brother shouldn't have agreed to such a dangerous cliff." Hearing this, Zhou Shuming was even more ashamed. He said, "Junior brother Ren, don't blame me. I saw that I couldn't shake you off, so I added it at the last minute. In the entire Tianmu Peak, I don't think anyone can climb up from this cliff." Then, he pointed to the mountain path in the distance and said, "That's the real path up the mountain?" Zhang Xiaohua looked and said, "Senior brother Zhou is really too mischievous." Then, she flashed and rushed towards the mountain path, leaving behind a voice, "Senior brother Zhou, it's better if you follow me to the top of the mountain. Old consecrator Lei and the rest are still waiting up there." The word "behind" was emphasized. Zhou Shuming must have heard it clearly. -3. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.